Correction to the agenda. It was in closed session, matters pertaining to students. Under B, stipulated expulsions, EH 21-22/17 was pulled for a later date. Announcements taken in closed session. By a vote of 6-0, the board approved to follow the staff recommendation in the student expulsions of EH 21-22/09 through 11. For B, by a vote of 6-0, the board approved to follow staff's recommendation on the stipulated expulsion. Comments from board members. Mrs. Hasty?
Yes, last week I was able to attend the MCAA performance of Almost Maine and the band showcase performance at Yuba Gardens for the district. And I am very thankful we are being able to return to performing live, and the amazing teamwork of the staff and students and administration working together with them. It was very exciting and heartening. I'm very thankful.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yes, I have three things that I'd like to bring up. One is thank you for the $1,000 elementary books at Linda Elementary. That was a huge award for that school, and just really appreciate the community supporting them there. The other two things was reading the Territorial Dispatch. They reported that the Yuba Water Agency received a Distinguished Contribution Award, and most of the award is based on kids coming from the school district. And I just think that's just an amazing combination of community support and an agency that has stepped forward to help educate students about the environment. And the last thing was the Dollar General has a literacy foundation, and they are going to award, they don't specify how much, but they're going to award Yuba Gardens with some amount of money to help with their education or with their English education that they're doing there. So I really appreciate both the acknowledgement of what's going on from agencies, but also the agencies that are giving back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boone?
Yeah, you know, I hate to get political because we're here to educate students. We're not here to be political, but with these vaccine mandates that are coming down the pike, it's going to affect our district. It's going to affect all districts around the state. There's a lot of people that are not in favor of these vaccine mandates, and I think that this should be put off at least, at the very least for now, that students, parents should have their choice to decide whether their student is going to get vaccinated or not. You know, these decisions on these vaccinations have been coming forward pretty quick. I mean, it's been, what, a year and a half since they've started these. We don't have them in students yet. We don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. To me, it would just be a lot safer to wait. There are no do-overs. Once a student's vaccinated, they're vaccinated. You can't take it back. So I can't sit up here in good conscience and tell a student, you know, force people to get vaccinated. I know that's not being done by the board. It's not being done by us. It's being done by the governor. So my question to the board would be, would we be in favor of a resolution to the governor to at least hold off the vaccination mandates and to push it back till we have more knowledge of it, so we have more science? Would the board be in favor of a resolution if we drew one up, just to say, hey, we don't think this is the right thing to be doing right now. We think this would be something that we'd like to push off. So something for board members to think about. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm not saying the stuff to be political. I'm speaking from my heart and from what I feel and what my constituents feel. And, you know, I don't expect people to applaud and all that stuff. I'm not here for the rah-rah. So I just want you to know that. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford?
Well, everybody knows how I feel about masks. I tolerate them, so yeah, I would sign your resolution.
Thank you.
Trustee Gary Criddle.
Ditto. Yeah, I think pretty much everybody knows where I stand on this. But the other comment I wanted to make, I just wanted to offer my congratulations to Alicia Wright. She's a teacher at Browns Valley Elementary School. I don't know if you saw the article in the paper. She put together a team and they produced a film that was mostly recorded here at Marysville High School. I think that's a great thing. It's a huge undertaking because I'm familiar with that line of work. So I just wanted to wish her team congratulations and best of luck, because now she gets to enter all these film festival circuits, and that can be brutal. So congratulations and good job. Thanks.
So in tonight's board meeting, you'll see then in our personnel section of it, we have the retirement of Lisa Mejia. And I would just like to take this time to thank Lisa for all of her years of help and support in the district. And she's been a great asset to this district, and she's going to surely be missed. So,
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Mr. Rasmussen. I was going to have that pulled so we could talk about it at the time, but being you're acknowledging it now, I'd also like to acknowledge her. I don't know how many years she was the secretary for the superintendent, but she was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
30 years at least,
very
I can
hard.
remember, huh? Pretty close.
And it's
Right,
a
guys?
big job. It's a very big job, and she did it wonderfully for a long, long time.
Great lady.
she did share with me that Dr. Azrani was number 5, the 5th superintendent that she has been with. Opportunity for employee organizations to address the board. Marysville Unified Teachers Association.
Good evening, Mr. Rasmussen, the rest of the board. My apologies for taking a moment. I was making sure that I had, in fact, shut off my phone since it's been going off nonstop today. First of all, I would like to start with a few positives. One is we would also like to congratulate and acknowledge our music program in the district, our music teachers and our students and the administrators who support those programs in the district. They have been doing phenomenal things, and agree with Board Member Hasty that their recent production and concert was amazing and a huge relief to see pulled off, but it takes a huge amount of effort to make it happen. It's not one or two people, it's definitely a group effort. So much appreciation and congratulations out to our music teachers and the students involved in those programs. Also, we would like to extend a congratulations to Alicia Wright as well, who we will gladly still claim as a teacher at Browns Valley Elementary School, but she now, I mean, we had to, give a little, and so now she's here at the district office. She has a lengthy title that she has earned by being very up on innovation and technology, but also the production that was recently featured in the paper. Much congratulations to her. That was a labor of love and something I know that she was very much looking forward to seeing come to fruition. So congratulations to her. And also, as mentioned, Lisa Mejia. Lisa Mejia's family has known my family for longer than I've been alive, and she has been here decades and has worked tirelessly for the district as well, and always been a very positive, upbeat person, and also somebody who was always there to lend a helping hand, answer a question, get you the help that you needed. And so Lisa Mejia will be dearly missed, but I do hope that she is able to enjoy some much needed time off. She has deserved it after all these years, that's for sure. To get into, I guess you would call it maybe the less than positive for this evening, I seem to recall missing the last board meeting. However, considering at least one item on the agenda tonight, I'm actually not so sure. I feel like maybe it's either a cruel joke or there's some time travel involved, or maybe a meeting agenda from a month ago inadvertently got put down as this meeting's agenda or something on the board website, because it definitely feels like and sounds like just like a recent meeting. Sounds like the meeting of last month, and a meeting in July, and a meeting in April, and a meeting in December, and last August, and on, where in the last 24 months in particular, we have just continued over and over again to add more and more positions here at the district office. I've read the job description over a number of times. The job description in and of itself is a bit of a hodgepodge. Seems like what my dad would call, we've got like a dog from every town listed as far as the job responsibilities and duties. The duties and activities and such just cover such a span of departments and issues that it really seems like this is a position created just to have a position. And that creates a lot of angst. And so I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but as a professional educator in this district, as president of MUTA, as a negotiator for MUTA, I would like to ask and again implore that the district, that the board, which is the decision-making body of the district, the board, that you vote no on that this evening, and that not only that you vote no on it this evening, but that you vote no on it in the future, that it doesn't come back in 3 or 4 weeks' time just to get a rubber stamp and be voted yes on. I would also like to speak on regards to our bargaining and our negotiations. Currently, our MUTA members are in the process of voting whether or not to ratify the tentative agreement for last year that is on the agenda for this evening, which also brings up the issue of bargaining and negotiations for this year. I would just like to remind the board that the proposal that MUTA has put forth of 5% ongoing for this year is more than reasonable, it's more than fair, and it's desperately needed. Just in about 4 minutes in the parking lot outside here, came up with a whole list of things just in one Google search to kind of prove the point. Just the price of gas alone, it has gone up 17 consecutive days. Out of the last 23 days, it's gone up 22 of those. It's up about 15 cents per gallon. Not to mention the fact that Dove just announced that their prices are going up. So shampoo, soap, those types of things is going up 4.1%. The inflation rate for the last 12 months ending at this end of September was 5.4%. Social Security has announced an unprecedented cost of living increase of 5.9%. So what the teachers are putting forward is desperately needed for them. I am yet once again receiving phone calls from members, much like I received during the last recession, where we have teachers who cannot afford to use their health care benefits because they can't afford their co-pays, they can't afford their piece of the puzzle that they have to pay for. I have people who are foregoing major health tests because they don't know how they'll be able to pay the bill when they get it. Your professional educators in this district need your help. We put forward this fair proposal clear back in July because we didn't want to be sitting here in October and November continuing to negotiate and bargain on this. And so we would just like to remind the district as well that negotiations are truly built on trust. We have to be able to trust not only the process, but we have to be able to trust the people that are involved. And we have to be able to trust that what we're told is the truth of things. And we have to trust the people that are involved in that whole process. And as the board for this district, I just want to remind you, we're hemorrhaging staff right now. Teachers, paras, bus drivers, administrators, and you're not going to convince people to come here and stay here if they don't have a sense of trust that they can believe in what's going to happen to them here. So just a reminder to the district that our negotiations for this year are ongoing, and I hope that the board will consider the 5% proposal that has been put forth before. Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Rasmussen, Superintendent Sarani. My name is Felix Mario Huerta Jr. And the reason I give my full name is because I want people to understand that we are part of this community. The union is part of this community. We represent 350 people who are the lifeblood, the glue that keeps this district together. You all know that. And I have 4 things I'd like to say today. Number 1, we do have a tentative agreement before you, so we have ratified that, and I notified the district that we have ratified that, and so I'm here to notify you that we've ratified that. Number 2, in almost 18 months, I've not had to file one grievance because most, if not all of the issues that we had were resolved through informal conversations. But unfortunately, this last month, I had to file a formal grievance. Unheard of, but I had to because things were being done at the Maintenance and Operations Department that completely violated our contract. The work that we do, the contract that we have covers the 4 corners of what we do. Maintenance and operations, grounds, food service, and the clerical staff. You cannot, through some supervisor in the Department of Maintenance and Operations, take away our bargaining at work. And so we've notified, and we thought we had an agreement with the assistant superintendent. Well, after that conversation, it turns out we didn't have an agreement because the supervisor did something completely different than what was said at the meeting. So I had to file a formal grievance. But the second thing I did was I filed a formal unfair labor practice. You cannot take away our bargaining at work. And so it's unprecedented that I had to file that, but I did. And so I let Mr. Carrion know that we were going to do that. It was filed last Friday. It was served on the superintendent. It was served on your general counsel. And so we hope that you hear what I say and take seriously that we want integrity with the superintendent, integrity with the board, accountability and responsibility and transparency. But at the end, we need respect. That means respecting me, respecting the employees that I represent. Some of them make, less than $20 an hour to start. Your bus drivers. To start, Schedule 1, Step A, less than $20 an hour. And so when you have that poster right there that says we're doing a job fair to try to hire people, and then you have in your board packet, oh, and by the way, we're going to give your work away to the company across the street that's a non-union company. Sutter Yuba cannot take our bargaining at work away. So you have a contract here, and I know it's not for a lot of money, but it's not about the money, it's the principle of the matter. Transferring bargaining at work is against the law. Nobody brought this to our attention in the last 6 months. The last thing is something very minor. I just heard about it last week, but to me, it makes a difference. We have maintenance and operations folks that have a lot of different skill sets, plumbers, electricians. We have somebody that's a locksmith. But somebody came into this building and changed the locks that my folks didn't do. That's transferring bargaining at work without coming to the union to talk to us. We would never agree to transfer bargaining at work. So how and why it happened, I'm going to find out. But you're going to hear about it formally because what you did was illegal. So I hope you understand. I want to work with you. I want to have cooperation with you. but you have to cooperate with me and you have to communicate with me. Whether you may think it's a working condition, wages, benefits, conditions of employment, one of the things that you should consider is maybe we should call the union representative to see what's going on here. So I appreciate you listening to me, and I hope that my statement today, which I haven't been able to be at these meetings for quite a while, and I've been doing other things. There's 2 board meetings, unfortunately, that happened at the same time. But I thought it was so important for me to be here to introduce myself to the new superintendent and to remind you that we are the glue that keeps this place together. So thank you very much.
Association of Management and Confidential Employees. Supervisory Unit. Meeting and give it to the Secretary, Board President, or the Superintendent. Regular board meetings, the public may address topics not on the agenda during this section of the agenda or ask that they be heard during a specific agenda item. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, 20 minutes total time for public input on each item per Board Bylaw 9323. The Ralph M. Brown Act prevents the Board of Trustees from responding to these comments with the exception of clarifying questions. The California Government Code Section 54954.2.A states, no action or discussion shall be undertaken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, except that members of the legislative body or its staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by persons exercising their public testimony rights under Section 54954.3. So we do have a number of public comments. You will see that we do have the timer here, and you can see up here, so we would appreciate if you would respect that time. I don't think we're going to run into the 20-minute total time limit per topic, so I don't think that's going to be an issue tonight. Our first public comment is Alicia Wright. Alicia?
Hello, I'm Alicia Wright, and yes, unfortunately, the newspaper did say I was still at Browns Valley, which I will always own as my home. But today I'm here not as an employee of MJUSD. I'm here as a community member and an independent filmmaker, specifically to say thank you to Marysville Joint Unified School District, specifically Coach Tar, Siobhan Matthews at Marysville High School, and everyone that helped make this film possible. In 2019, I was approached by a writer who had a script about a young man who had gotten in trouble at a school and was given a second chance. And in reading through the script that he presented to me, I just felt the need to help make this film happen. And if you've ever looked at Hollywood budgets, you would know that we would never be able to pull that off. And so I approached, at the time, Mike Hodson was here and talked about how we could make things work to use some of the facilities. The Marysville track students worked as extras in the morning, and some of them have speaking roles in the film, even after we've done the post-production. So we've had a 2.5-year journey, and the entire time, what kept me going through it, midnight calls to get things done, was knowing that I could put a good foot forward and show what can happen, and so that the kids would have a final production that they'll get to see. It's about an hour and a half. We've been putting it into film festivals. I've asked Russell today to show the 1-minute trailer, and then I do want to offer to anyone on the board or administration in the school district, if they're interested in seeing the full-length film before we do screenings with students as a fundraiser, I would like to offer that to you. So thank you for supporting and making this happen.
Looks like 1 minute's fine.
Me, huh? Why you got me out here wasting manpower looking for you?
I don't see a king in my face. I see a clown, and I'm tired of dealing with that.
Wait.
Wait, what? What?
What I gotta do? I'm lost. I'm getting paid.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright. Next, we have Joanna Lasaga. Joanna.
So we're reaching out to connect to you and request you to consult your legal teams, come together, and find a solution to preserve our students' medical freedoms and ability to access in-person instruction at public schools. According to the CDC, you wanted CDC facts, Mr. Rasmussen? Here you go. 561 children under 18 have died in the last year and a half with a COVID diagnosis code in their record. Yet the CDC, which has 21,000 employees, hasn't researched each death to find out whether COVID caused it or if it involved a pre-existing medical condition. Without this data, the CDC Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices decided in May that the benefits of two-dose vaccination outweigh the risk for all kids 12 to 15. The only research team to ever investigate a portion of these deaths found a mortality rate of 0 among children without a pre-existing medical condition such as leukemia. Clinical trials carried out by Pfizer on children aged 12 to 15 reveal that 86% of children who were given at least one dose of the vaccine suffered an adverse reaction ranging from mild to serious. The information, I printed you a copy. That fact sheet contains two labels that detail the alarming rate of side effects and damage experienced by 12 to 15-year-old children who were given at least one dose of the Pfizer mRNA vaccine. The table shows that 1,127 children were given one dose of the mRNA jab, but only 1,097 children received the second dose. This fact in itself raises questions as to why 30 children were not received a second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Of the 1,127 children who received a first dose of the vaccine, a shocking 86% experienced an adverse reaction. Of the 1,097 children who received the second dose of the vaccine, 78.9% experienced an adverse reaction. 35 deaths have already occurred in kids ages 12 to 17, some with 24 hours of taking the vaccine. A 13-year-old Michigan boy died June 16th, 3 days after he received his second dose of Pfizer COVID vaccine. Preliminary autopsy results indicated that following his vaccination, Jacob Kleinek's heart became enlarged and was surrounded by fluid, symptoms similar to those documented in other teen boys who experienced myocarditis following COVID vaccination. A 16-year-old girl who died 4 weeks after her second dose of Pfizer, a 17-year-old girl who experienced cardiac arrest 6 days after receiving the Pfizer, a 16-year-old boy who died 4 days after receiving a Pfizer vaccine, and a 13-year-old boy who died 2 days after receiving a Pfizer vaccine. There have been 3,600 plus reported cases of anaphylaxis among 12 to 17-year-olds, with 98% cases attributed to Pfizer's vaccine. There have been 652 plus cases of myocarditis and pericarditis have been reported, most common in male adolescents and young adults. There have been 146 reports of blood clotting disorders, all attributed to Pfizer. VAERS catches a mere 1% of vaccine injuries, primarily because it's a passive system and reports are filed voluntarily. With this alarming snapshot of data, our governor is making blanket mandates without any consideration.
Next, we have Felix Horta. Felix, did you also want to be in this section? Okay. Mandy Eschman. Mandy?
Hello. I'm here tonight as a Marysville High School teacher, though I have 3 kids in this district as well. I'm here because I want to talk about the future of our children, of our students. I'm not going to talk about the medical data because it's already been said, but I want to move forward. What is our plan? I want to talk about how I know you've been put in an impossible place where this choice is not yours, but the state of California. Unfortunately, CTA and NEA are all in favor of mandatory vaccines for both adults and children, so a lot of our hands are tied. So my question is, what are we going to do? If our plan moving forward is to be an independent study, what does that look like? Are we going to do distance learning again? What are the families supposed to do? Are they going to be home alone for 6 hours a day again? Are the students going to be required to be online all day? Are they going to have packets? Are they going to have to meet a teacher once a week in town? How do we transport them? What does that mean for our teachers? Who is going to teach these kids? Does that mean our classes are small at school? Or does that mean that brand new teachers are teaching? Or does that mean teachers are let go? What is our plan? Are they going to be required to meet with somebody else, somewhere else at some other point in time? What about our EL students? What about our students with an IEP? Who will be there to help them? What is our plan? Are we really going to do this to them again? We spent 18 months telling our students that their needs were not as important as the adults. As a result, students failed. The ones who did not fail barely scraped by, and countless students simply cheated their way through distance learning. The mental and emotional effects should not go unnoticed. For 18 months, all the students were forced to work in isolation. How many of us were forced to do the same? Even during that last year, I would come to work and there would be people to talk to during break or after school. Who did they have? If this independent study is where the district will go, the education these students will get will not be equal to what the students would get if they were in this classroom. They are being forced to receive a subpar education for something they have no control over. The students are not choosing this. We are punishing the innocent, and it is wrong. We need to have this discussion now. In 8 months is the end of the school year. 9 months until the mandate takes effect, and 10 months until the next school year starts. We have to give families time to plan. We have to give them time to make a choice. Can we please start this conversation right now? Our students need us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Eschman. Next, we have Jennifer Haggard. Jennifer?
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Eschman. She said it perfectly. My purpose was to speak on the vaccine mandate as well. Jeff, thank you for addressing that. The 3 of you on the left, I'd like to know where you kind of stand with that as well. I hope last Monday, the 18th, was kind of an awakening for our board, our district, for kids that will not be attending school if the vaccine mandate goes through, because it's immoral and it goes against what a lot of us believe. There are no trials. We are the trial, and my kids will not receive it. Luckily, my son is a senior, and he will be able to graduate before this vaccine may go into effect. My daughter, however, is an athlete. She's on student council. She's doing FFA. She's very active in school, and she's going to miss out on all of that if I pull her from school, which is what I will absolutely do, because I will not vaccinate them. I would also like to know what we are going to do. Can we put this on the agenda for next meeting and actually do a vote on it if we're not doing that tonight to push the vaccine mandate back? That to me is just a Band-Aid. I think that we need to stand up and say, no, these are our children's lives and their future that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haggard. Next, we have Angela Stiegel. Angela?
I'm actually going to speak when we get to the agenda item.
Okay. You want to talk at the ESSER III? Okay. Thank you. Next, we have Joe Tingle. Joe?
Bear with me here for a second. Evening, everyone. Over the past year and a half, our local history has been turbulent, yet together we have found a way to make it work. Ultimately, as a parent, it is my right to choose how to guide and navigate all aspects of my child's life. During distance learning, this board, administrators, and teachers, through their actions, all agreed upon that fact. The parent is ultimately responsible for what's best for their child. So in spring of 2020, all parents became the sole educator of their child. Thank you, distance learning. We had issues, and in the fall of 2020, with Dr. Greco's alarming statistic of a 49% failure rate, it was time for a change. In late winter of 2021, with the strong urging of your parents, we set a target of eliminating distance learning and to resume in-person instruction. Now we find ourselves in another crossroad, one inflicted upon us all by a distant observer, one that challenges the very meaning of being a parent. Whether you believe in COVID as a threat to this community or not is irrelevant. As a parent, I have the right to determine what is injected into my child. The state's recent health order gives this district the authority to allow a personal exemption from a mandatory vaccine. I urge this board to be open-minded and grant all personal exemptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Landerman. Jennifer? Landrum, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Landrum. I'm coming to you as a second-generation student and a second-generation teacher in this district. This will be my 20th year doing a job that I love, well, with the exception of last year in distance learning. Not only am I a teacher in this district, but I'm here as a parent. I have 2 children that attend school in MJUSD. I have remained quiet during this whole COVID nightmare because I knew most of us were just trying to figure this mess out and keep our heads above water. But with the recent mandates being pushed through by our governor, I feel I can no longer remain silent. I love my job. On a scale of 1 to 10 of my love for teaching, it's an 11. My fear is I'm going to have to choose between a job that I love or get a vaccine that I do not want to put in my body. If this vaccine kept me from getting COVID and kept me from spreading it, I would reconsider my stance, but that's the thing, it doesn't. It is supposed to lessen my symptoms. That is not reason enough for me to inject myself or my children with this vaccine, especially when we have no idea what this product will do to our body in 2, 3, or 10 years from now. I got COVID at the end of July. It was awful, but my body did what it needed to do, and I recovered. My 14 and 15-year-old boys gave it to me. We didn't even know they had it until I got sick. They had a cough, a few body aches, and that was it. Why should my children be forced to inject something in them that can potentially have adverse effects for a virus that had very minor effects on their bodies? My other problem with this vaccine is when it was developed, you had to get 1 or 2 shots. Now they're saying you need a booster. This virus is going to continue to mutate, therefore we will continue to need to get boosters. I don't want to get 2 shots, let alone repeated shots of something that we don't know what the long-term effects are. Along with being concerned for my own children, I'm concerned for our students in this district. I care for my students so deeply, and it breaks my heart to see the effects of distance learning had on these kids whose parents had to work and try to manage their children's schooling as well. I've seen firsthand the effect of distance learning has had on these students. My first graders don't know how to interact appropriately with their peers. They are emotional, some have separation anxiety, some cry at the littlest things or just all day. They deal with problems by hitting and kicking, and the list goes on. I'm worried about the students whose parents will pull them out of school if this vaccine becomes mandatory. I'm included in that group. I don't want my children homeschooled. They love being with their friends, and I love being with my students. If this mandate goes through as our governor is saying it will be devastating to our entire community. Some parents are scared to death of their kids getting COVID, but on the other side, there are parents who are just as scared to inject their children with this COVID vaccine. Neither side is wrong. We just want the ability to choose what is best for ourselves as teachers in this district and for our children that attend schools in this district. This is America. It feels like it's just the beginning of the government chipping away our freedoms. I'm asking the board to please stand against this mandate.
Go ahead. Next, we have Rebecca Carlton. Rebecca?
Wow, you guys are a piece of work. I applaud the courage that I see here tonight. I do stand with the parents. The parents, you guys are amazing. Like, I stand with you right now. You guys are phenomenal. Keep up the fight. I didn't want to come tonight, but keep up the fight because your children, this is it. Guess what stands between the state and your children right now? It's these people. What are you guys doing? This is communist propaganda. That's what it is. Shuck it down. Is this about health? Is it? I don't think so. 99.9%. Let's talk about syphilis and teenagers who like to be promiscuous, right? Are we tracking syphilis right now? Because that's pretty deadly, is it not? Dr. Liu, our health director, what is she doing to do that? What about suicides, teenage suicides? What is really going on here? Mr. Union member, you saying it's not about the money is like saying a stripper saying it's not about the money. Oh, it's about the money, all right. Let's follow the money. 55 million? 55 million for this? For you to experiment on their children? Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I'm going to say it again. Get some courage. Stand up. We're in a fight for America, and guess where it starts? It starts right here. It starts in their homes. It starts when they have dinner with their children. Come on, man. We got to do way better. We are Americans. This is propaganda. And our California, let's rise up. Let's rise up and show America and show the world that we are about freedom because we're responsible and we know how to govern our lives. That's why our founding fathers put checks on everything that you all do so that you wouldn't have complete control. Like Gavin Newsom. Let's go, Gavin. Over it.
Next, we have Dennis Kinney. Dennis?
Yeah, I come here with the same thing as her, you guys. Where are you at? Are you going to take America down right from this little town? Are you going to get on the bandwagon of evil? Evil is what is ruining this country with Dr. Fauci. Boy, isn't he a great one to follow the guidelines of. Do you know what's going on out there in the other parts of the world? Country? You need to be with us. We need to be with you and fight this government that is nothing but evil on our kids. We're going to leave our kids and our grandkids, our country, like this? It's a disgrace that you don't want to stand up against this. Our founding fathers gave us a road to happiness, a map to happiness. And it's not here. This government right now that's in there is taking everything and going the opposite direction. They don't go by no Constitution. They ain't following nothing except their ways of evil. Totally. You guys will all have to answer one day to the one that created us. And I don't know if you really thought about that. You say, some of you say that you believe in Jesus Christ, but boy, you're sure following the way of the devil. Because that's what we got going on all around. But this is a small town, and you should gather with some other small towns and go up against this government or this governor in California. How long did they test this ingredient? And most of the time it's 10, 15 years before they ever brought a vaccine out. But now, come on, experiment on us? Are they going to take the vocal cords out of the kids when they do it? Like they did with the animals where they didn't have to listen to it? I'm sure you've seen them experiments on TV the last 2 days, right? Of Dr. Fauci. Took parts of the brain of the monkey out to see how scared he would be of the snake that's in there with him because of fear, because they want us to see what we're going to fear. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. That's who the CDC, that's what you guys are following. Somebody like that.
So the next three cards have to do with the ESSER plan. Would you folks want to talk when we're discussing that?
What it's about and see that first, I believe, and then, if we have a comment.
Right, it is a public hearing, so once we have staff talk about it, then everybody can talk. Perfect. Okay. Okay, next we have presentations from South Lindhurst High School, Community Day School, Abraham Lincoln's Home School, their site plans. Mr. Jones and Mr. Gray? Or Mr. Jones?
Good evening. My name is David Jones, principal of South Lindhurst High School. I would like to say thank you to the Board of Trustees for this opportunity to share our program with you. My goals for this evening is really to make it clear as to the population that we do serve and what we do within our program, where we are today and where we will be in the future. We serve 11th and 12th graders that are at risk of not graduating. They are students who may be credit deficient, may need a smaller learning environment that don't necessarily fit within the comprehensive sites, or need accelerated graduation opportunities because of their family dynamics that are out of their control. All decisions are based on our school-wide learner outcomes, and there are 3 of them: achievement, transition, and character. Every single one of those will apply to the LCAP goals that are adopted by the school district, as well as our WASC action goals. Our WASC results, that is the accredited diploma that's the same as Lindhurst High School and Marysville High School. We look at the results of that data, as well as other survey data that we provide to students, parents, and staff. And we focus on that year's kids. So we adapt our plan every single year to meet the needs of that year's kids. Our WASC journey began in 2015. When I came over to South Lindhurst, we were WASC accredited. And in 2018, we had essentially an autopsy of our entire school. We broke apart every aspect of our school campus and had our self-study visit. It was a 2-day visit, and we earned a full 6-year accreditation all the way to June 2024. You can see the strengths on the screen. We had our mid-cycle review in 2021. We had an outstanding review last school year during distance learning, and it reaffirmed our accreditation through June of 2024. And again, you can see the words of commitment. Commitment from myself, my staff, and you guys as the school district to support our program to ensure that we had the tools that we needed to be successful. Areas of growth. In 2018, during that self-study visit, it gave us the pathway for our action plan. You can see the areas of growth there: to improve rigor for instruction, data for intervention, 21st century skills, those are those transition skills to job and career, social emotional supports, and increased opportunities for students to have a voice in what we do in our program. We've done that. In 2021, in our mid-cycle review, it says to continue what we're doing in every one of those areas. They also included the 2 bullets that you see on the very bottom that states this district should work with administration to explore ways to maintain or improve the level of student support, intervention, and guidance as enrollment levels increase, because it is that intimate connection that is truly important and that creates that family atmosphere to connect with those at-risk kids and pulls them in. This is our action plan. It goes in 4 areas. You might see that they resemble much of what is in our LCAP as well. Instruction, intervention, 21st century skills, those are those transition skills, no matter if a student wants to go to college or if they want to get in a vocational program or pursue a job or career. Social emotional supports, and as you guys have seen with the pandemic, that's sorely needed. Keys to developing our program, it's all based on relationships. We have to have relationships with our students, those close, intimate, daily, trusted relationships with our students. It creates a sense of family, and through that trust, they will go through walls for you. I love my at-risk population. Every one of my staff members have a growth mindset. We're never satisfied at where we are at right now. We want to get better. And we do that through the PLC process, professional development, surveys, etc. Congruence. This is something that we've improved every single year. I think it's important that we are all going in the same direction. And so having common goals in a common direction in every one of those plans that you see up there, and having tiers and layers at our school site in terms of instruction, opportunities for dual enrollment, intervention. And always, every decision should always be what's best for kids. SIPSA plan, that is our economic plan. That's our allocation of funds. We take information from all stakeholders, from our staff, our students, our parents, and community, and we want everything to be aligned so that we can close the achievement gap for our at-risk kids. And so we meet in a site council group, minimum of 4 times a year. This is my budget to run my school site for the entire school year. It is $81,157. All of my Title I money goes to one person, our secondary student support specialist, and she is bilingual. Our secondary support specialist is essential. We have an EL population of at least 30%. It has gone up each and every single year. Our families have to be connected to our school site, and you only do that through their primary language. Our targeted funds are used for Chromebooks and distance learning and other supplemental materials to meet our goals. These are all the start items you see on the screen. Those are our data points. That is how we evaluate our program every single year. So when we evaluate, we are looking whether or not our funds that we're allocating are effective, our staff, are they effective, are the interventions and supports that we're doing, are they effective? The next slide you see is every single semester we provide a needs assessment to our students. Tomorrow, our juniors and seniors will be taking this. Every one of those areas is the area that we essentially do an autopsy for this year's kids. And we find out what are your needs. This is what shapes our workshops. This is what brings in outside community resources to meet the needs of our students each and every semester as we get new enrollment each quarter. We have 3 goals in our SIPSA plan. Again, this is our economic plan. Instruction, parent involvement, and social emotional supports to have a safe learning environment. Again, those are common themes that you guys have seen so far tonight in this presentation. Our goal 1 is on instruction. Again, secondary student support specialist. This is our largest of the 3 goals because it encompasses professional development, instruction, intervention, and extension, I might add. We have great kids. We have some very smart kids, and they need to be extended and pushed. And we do that through the winter intercession, in which we do the same thing that colleges do, and we provide online coursework for them to be able to extend and earn credit opportunity. And there you see it is aligned with WASC and LCAP goals. This is our AJ-19 dual enrollment course class this year. We do have a MOU with Yuba College. We built it into the school day because we had barriers. The barriers were transportation, books, and they didn't have the means to be able to pay for those items. So we built it into the school day on our campus. We have administrative justice, a 3-course model, AJ-19, AJ-10, and now we are bringing on AJ-30, Intro to Corrections. We chose administrative justice because our kids wanted it. We pulled them and surveyed them, interviewed them, and we did that 3 years ago. We want to expand this. We want to expand this next year to add fire tech. We want to create a public safety academy for our students as well as the district. And those kids would have Fire Tech 1, Fire Tech 3, Fire Tech 5, in addition to the administrative justice. The future of Ms Mjosd. If you look at our district as a holistic model, Marysville High School does an excellent job with their medical program. I would call it a medical academy. Lindhurst High School does an excellent job with their service industry. I would call that a service industry academy. South Lindhurst High School is building an excellent public safety academy if we're able to make this work. Again, MJUSD students would be able to have that available to them. SIPSA goal number 2, parent involvement. Again, we are constantly trying to bring parents involved into our child's education. It's none more important than our at-risk. You will see examples of that right here. For these students, this is our Students of the Month for September. What's amazing about this is we always try to bring the parents involved in recognizing positive behaviors and achievement. The emotions, when students find out that they get this, and emotions from the parents, because many of these kids have never been recognized for positive. And if they have, it's been ever since elementary school. SIPSA goal 3 is social emotional supports. We've integrated since 2015 PBIS elements. But this year we're taking it to another level with our outreach consultant being trained in PBIS. We have a staff PBIS team. We also have a student guiding coalition that is our PBIS team to increase positive school culture. And here you can see the WASC and LCAP goals that support that. And this is our campus. And you can see that it is just a fabric of our school. We do have positive relationships and a positive school culture at our school site. It is the absolute strength of our school, and that's why we're able to get the gains and the graduation numbers that we've been able to get an increase ever since 2015. 2021 feedback. We got feedback already this year. We did it in a variety of different ways through our student coalition. We always give enrollment surveys when they first enroll, and we give exit surveys when they graduate. We've had 16 graduates already this school year. We've had parent surveys already sent out and received data that way, student data as well as staff data. You can see on the left-hand side that we've had positive feedback in terms of communication, academic needs, and social-emotional needs. Areas of improvement, I always like to look at areas of improvement. Our parents have said that they would like to have more accelerated opportunities, as well as increased opportunities for parents to be interactive in school. Students continue to be available and talk to us, help us. They love that, they need that. Have a therapist on campus and learn more job-related skills. That concludes my presentation. I would feel free to ask me any questions that you want about my program, and that's all I got.
Comments or questions?
Wow. I thought that was a very good presentation. Thank you very much. Just to let everybody know, we got a lot of people still in the audience. Usually it clears out by now. The WASC accreditation, the Western Accreditation of Schools and Colleges, that's a big deal because essentially a school is opening their doors to letting this third-party group to come in and evaluate, hey, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? And they got essentially a 6-year pass. That's huge. Good job. Way to go.
The one thing I would like to say, Mr. Jones, again, thank you. That was a very good presentation. And if you could maybe send that presentation to Dr. Azrani, and maybe if she could send it out to the board members, I would, or at least myself, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Gray?
Good evening, everyone, board and Dr. Azrani, Dr. Greco. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk about 2 schools in our district, Marysville, Abraham Lincoln School and Community Day School. Uh-oh. Gotta find it. Yep. There we go. I did that on purpose. Community Day School, the alternative pathways to success. There are 2 schools in our district here, just up the sidewalk, that I think are very important to our kids and our communities. The Community Day Schools is there to provide quality educational experience which allows students to return to the comprehensive site. It's not a place we want to have the students stay their entire high school career. While Abraham Lincoln Independent Study, thank you for the board on March 9th when you approved the go-ahead for this independent study, because we are an A through G WASC accredited school, and it gives our students an opportunity above and beyond what they're able to do just at the comprehensive sites. There's a picture of the Community Day School. Some of the things that we offer, we do serve this year students grades 9 through 12. Most of them have not had experiences that were good at other sites. We offer a clean and safe campus. We do have something that I think is very important, especially in these times. We offer counseling. We do boys and girls groups, which have been tremendously beneficial to our students. The Continuous School Grant, the CSI grant, allows for a wellness counselor to be on campus, which also gives additional counseling opportunities to these students. We also have additional technology and materials through this grant. Our parents receive trainings. We have one of our teachers who's a trained nurtured heart specialist, and the parents come and meet with him and go through this process because we want our students to feel welcome on our campus. Our staff believes that all means all. That's a term that Mike Mattis from the Solution Tree people uses a lot, and that's what we buy into. At Community Day School, you have 56 students right now. That's not a great number, but it's flexible. Students come and go. They come from Lindhurst and Marysville usually. Sometimes we get some from Yuba County Career Prep. A lot of times they come having no credits, having not been in school. These individualized supports, because all of these at-promise students need help, and we're there to help them. Our staffing is 4 teachers. We have a campus security guy he bonds with the kids. We have an academic counselor, and as I mentioned, the Wellness Together counselor has just been a hugely valuable person on there. Technology, we have one-to-one technology. We have students can work on assignments not only at school, but where they can get direct instruction, but they can take it home and work at home online. And there still is that connection with the teachers who are virtually there available for the kids even when they're not at school. Their education program, it's a hands-on and an online, as I said, one-on-one support system. Our goals, and I tell you, it's tough to follow South Lindhurst because Mr. Jones does an outstanding job. And I want to interject that in the 13 years I've been at Marysville District, I've been blessed to be around fantastically talented people. So just knowing that they are there to call on for help at times is a real comfort to me. We want to increase graduation rates or help students remediate. We want to raise student reading and math performance level by 3 grades. That's our goal. We want to improve student attendance. Many of our students come through the SARB process, and what I think is something that we're really doing a good job, especially this year, is family engagement. Our teachers are constantly in contact with parents and other families, members. Now we move to Abraham Lincoln Independent Study. And again, March 9th was very significant. We were approved to move forward with this, and right here's the mission and the vision. And I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by reading that to them, but right now we're looking at over 500 students. 148 of them are in grades K through 6, 357 in grades 7 through 12. We have 14 teachers. We have an academic counselor. That wellness counselor does serve students from Abraham Lincoln, and we have an office clerk and a secretary. We've heard about WASC. Now this is a big deal. By being a WASC accredited school, we open doors to careers and college and military options that we weren't able to do before. I mean, that's big. If we can help kids, that's what we're going to do. The A through G coursework for high school students, we use technology-based and the district curriculum. That allows that 4-year path that we're looking for. And something that we find that we have to do, but it's crucial to this, is if students are not engaging and not doing the work, we have a 3-tiered approach to getting them back on track, because that's what's going to help them in the long run. You know, it's been a long time without being in school for some of these guys, but be able to get them those supports and get them going back on course is what we want to do. Now, we have general funds. $163,310 is what we have. Most of that stuff goes to technology because we do a lot of online technology-based things. But we look at what the needs are for our kids and we go from there. We designed this program for K through 12. The WASC accreditation mainly is for the high schoolers, but as the WASC team that visited us said, you know, it's important to run consistency through our program. So it's K through 12, and the district approved programs are what we use. Technology-based, there's a focus on self-directed and teacher-monitored independent study model. The K through 6 program requires daily synchronous interaction. That's really, for me, a key. If we can reach students early, and there are a lot of kids that their parents don't want them in schools yet because there's a lot of uncertainty. When I go into my room and I see my teachers with 25, 30 faces on the screen, and they're interacting and they're doing synchronous instruction with district-adopted curriculum, Wonders and the Wonders and the Go Guardian system that we have, this is important. And again, I already mentioned, students will have better access to college, careers, and military options. We have a master agreement that is basically a contract that the students and the parents and the school signs that say we're going to do these things and we expect certain things from you. Teachers are assigned students to support in Edmentum progress, and they monitor these things. The students also have to complete all of the work, and that's part of that master agreement. Now, K through 3 is a little bit different breed. I said we have to do a lot more synchronous type instruction. That's just been a tremendous thing for me. I'm not really an elementary guy, but when I watch these teachers reaching these kids and setting the framework for what they're going to do later in life, that's very important. And whether we like it, technology or not, it's a part of our lives now. And we have to do it and use it the right way. 4th through grade, we start with homeroom. We have synchronous instructional times that are offered during the day, additional help. And the 9th through 12th graders, with that homeroom, they also have subject-specific instruction, all part of the WASC process. So, again, I thank you guys. Yeah, I like the puppy picture, so, you know, my My wife shows dogs professionally, and I've been in the ring a little bit myself. So got to have some puppies in here. Are there any questions that you guys have for me?
I would just like to say thank you very much, Mr. Gray, for all that you do, and it's fantastic, and you know how you're supporting the kids, especially through our Abraham Lincoln School this year, which is brand new. And again, if you could send that presentation to Dr. Israni and she could distribute it.
Thank you again, Board, and thank you, Mr. Jones, for all your input.
Any other comments, questions? Next, we have updates. Business services.
That was a struggle. Good evening. Thank you. No, not much to update on, but I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to our maintenance and grounds crews for cleaning up and rushing around doing some repairs and mitigating some damages from the big storm this weekend. And just a big thank you to all of them. Thanks.
Thank you. Educational services.
So again, just wanted to take a brief moment to thank our educational coaches and TOSAs who are out. So we have our EL specialists and our 2 literacy coaches who are working with our teachers out at the sites. And then just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of the teachers for everything that they continue to do. With the shortage of teachers and staff being able to be hired, not just what they're doing during the day, but what they're doing covering for each other, subbing periods, attempting to run after-school programs to provide the things for students that we're being asked to provide. I just wanted to take that moment to say thank you to them for what they're doing.
Thank you. Personnel services. Superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking I was going to be like you going around. Good evening. I just hope everybody in the community was safe after that torrential rain that continued for 24 hours. I hope all our families were dry and everybody is safe. We did have the great shakeout this last week at some of our school sites, which is the nationwide practice for the earthquake drill. I also attended the music showcase at Yuba Gardens with Ms. Hasty. It was wonderful to see our students and just see them come alive with the music and the talents. And I'd like to really thank our principals, our music directors, as well as our students for all their hard work and just to see all the talents at play that evening. It was really wonderful to see parents with the cameras on taping their children after almost 18 months of not seeing the talents and show. Similarly, on Sunday evening, I attended the MCAA performance, and that was another exciting event. Thank you, Ms. Hasty. I believe you were there as well, and so it was great to see that. I attended the Browns Valley Pumpkin Festival and had the tri-tip dinner with my husband. That was nice. I met some community members in Brownsville, in Browns Valley, and it's just nice to see this community things that are happening and understanding our community a little better. Again, thank you, Ms. Hasty, for getting me into the Rotary, and I was acknowledged and I was, I guess, formally allowed to enter Rotary and inducted as a member. And so Marysville Joint Unified School District is now part of the Rotary, and we will slowly and surely find a way to continue to celebrate the community and our district and our students and our staff. We did have the district's first Dlac meeting, which is a district meeting for English language learners, and want to give a shout out to Noemi Magana, who did an amazing job in leading this meeting, had about 70 parents in attendance on Zoom in the late evening hours, and a wonderful job that she's doing with our English language learners. Also wanted to thank our Dlac parents, our District Advisory Committee parents. We had that meeting last week as well, and all schools and all principals were in attendance, and our district directors and coordinators. Again, it was a large group. All these groups are talking about improvement of our district, programs that we're doing. We are being extremely transparent about getting their input as to what else do we need to do. And I think that's the theme that we have this year, which is listening and learning and knowing that no matter how difficult times are, that there are good things happening, and we are focusing on the learning and the teaching and continuing to celebrate that. And I would like to echo what Dr. Greco said. The work our teachers and our principals are doing at this time, they're tired. I look at our administrators, they're substituting into classrooms, running school sites, doing lunch duties. There's just no end. And so just want to give a heartfelt thanks to our administrators who might be listening in today, to our principals, assistant principals, campus security, everybody that we don't thank you enough. Just want you to know that we see you, we see you every day for what you do for the children that we serve in this district. Also want to say congrats to Alicia Wright. We have a movie maker in our midst. Alicia, we need your autograph before you go away to Hollywood. So we need that from you. She's a coordinator of intervention, and I would like to say that she's taken some of the vision we have discussed this year with you, board. She's moving AVID forward. She's the one leading the conversation along with Jamie Larson about the STEAM work and the STEAM instruction that will happen in the Hill schools, where the principals have asked that we focus on STEAM at their schools, bring in robotics and coding for the schools up in the hills. So she's leading that conversation with us. Thank you, Alicia, for all the work you do for us. And again, finally, the Student Forum is coming up in November. Want to give a shout out to our PIO, Courtney, sitting at the back there. She's been coordinating meetings I've been having with community members, with City Hall members, with various business groups, and with our students and parents. And the Student Forum is so important. What we heard today in the presentation from Lindhurst and from Mr. David Jones and Mr. David Gray is the students are the focus of this district, and that everything we do, what we teach, the decisions we make must absolutely support our children. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity for letting me serve in this district, and we'll continue to do what's right for our children and our staff. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of minutes. Minutes from the regular board meeting of 10/12/21. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Trustee Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, 6 yes. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that board members would like to have pulled? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
Motion to approve by Trustee Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, 6 yes. Next, we have the new business. The business services, trustee boundary analysis, and presentation with schoolworks. The purpose of the agenda item is to inform the board of the results of the next steps from the 2020 trustee boundary analysis. Jennifer,
Yes, we have Mr. Reynolds joining us via Zoom to do the presentation. He's with Schoolworks. And Rocco will be administering the questions from the board if there are any at the end.
We're going to, we can't pull up. Is it coming in? Yep, go ahead. It's all yours.
If I share my screen?
Yes, please.
All right. And hold on, let me see if this, here we go. Can everyone see that okay?
yes.
All right. Thank you for allowing us to present virtually tonight. We are here to present to you the results of our analysis of the new 2020 census data for your district. This slide just goes over the overview of the timeline and requirements. It's based on California Education Code districts are required to analyze the population within their trustee areas every 10 years. The deadline for making any corrections is February 28th of 2022. The possible results of the analysis are shown here. Either the trustee areas are still within the 10% deviation and no changes are needed, or there will be an adjustment needed, small or large, depending on how varied the population sizes are. This slide just shows the Education Code section 5019.5 that is the basis for the requirement to rebalancing trustee areas. This is an overview of what we have done so far for the district. We collected the Census 2020 data when it became available and analyzed your district's population as well as the population for each of your trustee areas. And we calculated the deviation percent for those. The next steps, if the deviation is greater than 10%, will be to develop up to 3 draft scenarios and then hold a public hearing to adopt a new map. Of the about 60 districts we've analyzed so far, there have only been 3 that fell below that 10% variation amount and did not need any changes. So it's a pretty standard thing that almost all districts are going through right now of rebalancing. On this slide, we show the current district boundary. The large section to the northeast is not shown because it all belongs to Area 4. But each of these colored areas show the different trustee areas and where they serve. When we analyzed the data for the trustee areas, we found a total population of just over 65,000 people living within the Marysville Joint Unified School District. So when we're building those trustee areas, we're looking for a population of about 9,338 per trustee. Your trustee areas are a little bit unique when compared to other school districts. You've got 3 of your areas that have 2 trustees in them. And so we just have to balance based on the per trustee amount. So we calculate what that ideal population is compared to what the population inside the block is, and that gives us our deviation. And when we take the highest number, which is that 8.33%, and compare it to the lowest number, which is that -7%, that's what gets us to that 15% peak variation for your district. And in addition, all that census data includes a breakdown based on racial and ethnic details. And that breakdown is available for the total population as well as the adult population, which is the 18+ population shown here, as well as the citizen voting age population, which is actually a survey done by the census and is from 2019. And just like any survey, it's not as comprehensive as the census, but it gives us a good guideline of understanding our population in each of the areas. So in conclusion, we found that peak deviation of just over 15%. And so we'll need to come back with some map options to rebalance those. And if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Is there any
Thank you for your The one question I have is, when can we expect to see the alternatives for the different boundaries?
So the question was? The question, can you hear me?
You're muted.
So the question was, when do you plan some of these reboundaries to come?
The required timeline is by the end of February. We have actually already drawn 3 potential maps to rebalance your areas, and we sent it to the district pretty recently. But usually it's good practice to post those maps at least 7 days before the next board meeting. And so depending on when your next board meeting is, we can present those 3 map options, collect some feedback, and have it wrapped up pretty quick, or you can analyze the numbers and take a little bit of time to decide and get it adjusted in January.
Thank you.
I think there are no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say thank you. Say thank you to him. A thumbs up.
So I do want to reiterate that was just an informational item, so there was no action taken on that. We'll bring those other maps back and have a public hearing and then make some determination on what we're going to do. Item number 2, Yuba-Sutter transit bus passes for students. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the board approve the plan to provide bus passes to our students that are without transportation to and from school in the amount of $5,000.
Yes,
Mr. Taylor.
So we are proposing to, basically what this is reimbursing children in areas that we are not currently servicing. And it also fits in with the existing transit route. So this isn't something that we are going to take away from our bus drivers. We're not going to take students off our existing buses, and it's not going to be for areas that we are already servicing. And if in the event that we get to start adding more routes in those areas that we're currently not servicing, then we wouldn't be reimbursing the children anymore for this service. Yuba-Sutter Transit is not going to add any more routes for us. That's not part of the process. It is just the existing routes that they have. So, and yet, like I said, none of our routes will be altered or moved or canceled. We did look up the ed code on this. It's ed code 39800. It says that transportation in this fashion is allowable. I do know of at least one other school district that does do this. And ed code 44808, it says that we are not liable for what happens on those buses since we are not in control in any way. We are just reimbursing bus passes.
Do we have comments from board members?
We already met with council on that, and they see no problem with this.
Just to clarify, these buses are not stopping at any school sites, are they?
No, they'll stop at their existing stops, like Lindhurst. If a kid decided to go to Lindhurst, it would be on McGowan Parkway, and they're going to have to walk in. It'd be something like that.
Thank you.
So as I understand it, the disconnect is that we don't have enough bus drivers. And we are trying to get more bus drivers.
Absolutely.
And we are training, we are paying for their training. Is that correct?
No, we're trying to get more bus drivers. We do not pay for their training. We reimburse them once they get to, once they get their license. We reimburse for all of that, but it's not paid time.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we are obviously looking for drivers.
So the focus is making sure students have transportation to school.
Yeah, to give them the option for this.
All right, thank you.
Do we have any idea about the number of students this might help?
I don't at this time. I do know a number of students that are using transit for interdistrict transfers, like students who live in Olivehurst and they'll go to Marysville High School. Like, we're not going to reimburse for interdistrict transfers. But as for who are currently riding to, like, say, Yuba Gardens or Lindhurst, I don't have an idea.
This is the first time we've done this, right?
Well, it's the first time we've done it since I've been here. The district does reimburse kids for hardship situations for forever. Say like they're homeless or.
For the whole month, and every month they hand out a pass when they're doing the pass.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's just paying for the pass. I will help facilitate them getting the pass. Like I will take the information, a picture of the student to Yuba-Sutter Transit for them to make the pass. That's not much effort.
No picture on the pass.
There is a picture on the pass. Yeah, we do need a current picture of the passes for the passes.
This is something that we've been doing for homeless and foster students.
I thought so, yeah. You and I were working with the range. Yeah. I thought so. That did not long.
So, go ahead, Dr. Bergen.
No, I was just going to say, especially in times like this when we're having transportation shortages and in a culture where there's a lot of poverty, what we saw, and I think Mr. Crawford could speak to it at Alternative Education, was the increase in access that students had when they had the freedom. Where it also helped outside of school just was that job search, everything else, having that means of transportation if a parent wasn't available. So outside of even just being able to get to school with these passes, they're able to use them throughout the month to be able to accomplish anything else that they need to about the community as well.
So what I hear is saying is if we had enough bus drivers and enough of our buses, and then we wouldn't need to be looking elsewhere to provide transportation.
Yeah,
Is
no,
that
we wouldn't
accurate?
do this at all. No, if we had enough bus drivers.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments or questions from board members?
Are we liable if a student makes an incredibly poor choice and does something other than go to and from school or to and from a job?
You mean it's like, say they take the bus to the mall or something like that? We're not liable. That's something they're doing on their own.
Okay, but are we liable
No.
as a district?
No. I met with council. They found the state law that says we're not liable, and also in their opinion, we're not liable for what may happen to them on the bus.
In portal of public transport wouldn't fall under school district jurisdiction.
I couldn't understand you, I'm sorry.
In portal transportation on public transport doesn't fall under school district jurisdiction. Okay. Sorry, that's a tongue twister.
Okay, thank you.
Clarify the intent of this is we have students whose parents are not able to get them to school.
Right.
We have students who are walking on sidewalks that might not exist. We have students who are walking in the pouring rain and the heat. We're just trying to do what's right to serve our students who require this little bit of financial support to get the education they need so they can be successful adults.
Sure.
That is the intent of this. It is just, we don't know how many will take advantage of this. We have bus routes we've added at Arboga, and it's not even full, right? Is it?
And the existing routes for transit doesn't even go into that area. So my assumption is that it's not going to be much more than 30, 40 kids, but that's just an assumption.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'll entertain a motion.
I'm sorry, Board President, I did make a request to speak on this item.
So what you turned in was Personnel Services number 4? Yes. This is not Personnel Services number 4. And when we get to Personnel Services number 4, Mr. Herrera.
I identified it, but it was this item, sir.
But this is not what he had signed up to speak on.
I did misidentify, sir. Personnel Services, item number 4 is the tentative agreement, and this is what I wanted to speak on.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Herrera, but you turned in a public comment card to speak on a particular item. When we get to that item, then we'll let you speak to that. But at this particular item, you didn't turn in a card to speak, and it's not a public hearing. So I'm not going to recognize you.
It's not a public hearing, but the public is allowed to speak on an agenda item. I can put in another card if you'd like. It was just misidentified, sir.
So you want to speak to the number 2 item is what you're saying?
Yes,
not
not number
4 item.
But it's under Personnel Services.
I spoke on that earlier.
Okay, consensus of the board, go ahead and speak.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I apologize.
You will have your 3 minutes, so.
I apologize for my error on the identification of the agenda item, sir. The operating engineers, local U number 3 AFL-CIO is the exclusive bargaining representative for employees in the maintenance operations, the clerical unit, nutrition services, and transportation unit employed by Marysville Unified School District. At all times, we are covered by a collective bargaining agreement that governs the terms and conditions of employment. The collective bargaining agreement has been renewed from year to year in a series of memorandums of understanding and side letters. As you know, Marysville Unified School District is covered by the Educational Employment Relations Act. That is the law that talks about our legal obligation and our legal relationship we have. On your agenda today is the following, and listen very carefully what I'm going to say. Yuba-Sutter transit passes for students. In the agenda item comments, it says the board packet contains the following background statement. As a transportation option during staff shortages. So the question is, it's staff shortages that I have a legal obligation to meet and confer over, and the impact and effect that you're having for staff shortages. The fact that you're having a job fair is one of those indicators that you're having a staff shortage. I understand that. We are in the business of transporting students to schools. That's the bus drivers' jobs. By implementing this unilateral transfer of bargaining at work, Marysville is removing work that employees that we represent do. At no point in the last 6 months has Marysville Joint Unified School District requested a meeting confer over the shortage of clerical workers. As such, the school bus drivers and the transfer bargaining work to a unit outside of our, to an outside entity, Yuba-Sutter is in violation of our agreement. Now, there's Ed Code laws that speaks to this, but there's one fundamental law that I'm responsible for enforcing here. That's the Education Relations Act that we have. As the board, you're about to make a unilateral decision without advance notice to the union, let alone an opportunity for the union to bargain over the impact and effect and decision to transfer bargaining at work, and will result in a continuing impact on the terms and conditions of employment of the employees that I represent. As such, we ask that you not approve this action today without meeting and conferring with OE3 regarding the impact, effect, and decision as required under EERA. Now, if you've checked with your lawyers, that's fine. You're going to end up spending more money, more than $5,000 to back this action that you're taking today than it would be to delay this and meet with us. So the $5,000 that you're talking about spending, you're going to spend a lot more than that.
Thank you, Mr. Gerardo.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Trustee Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We have Trustee Gary Criddle, no. Motion carries, 5 yes. Next, we have Educational Services number 4, FEV tutor presentation. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the board approve the agreement with FEV tutor beginning on 10/27/21 and ending on 12/31/22 in the amount of $800,020 to provide 24/7 tutoring services across grades K-12.
Okay,
Dr.
and I'm
Greco?
going to, if you're okay, I'm going to present from here just because I'm going to run this afterwards. So we are going to have a live demo for the board and the community to see tonight. What we heard in talking to stakeholders throughout the process and through last year as well, is it echoing? Is it okay? So what we heard was that students need help, teachers need assistance, everybody's looking for additional support. So what we did is we went out and we looked for a long-standing organization that did tutoring around the clock. So what we found after looking through a bunch of different vendors was FEV Tutors. FEV Tutors is a 24/7 tutoring service. What we heard from students was after-school tutoring is great, but like I'm not going after school. I've got sports, or I need to go home, I've got other things going on. I do my homework at 9 o'clock at night, or I need help when I'm doing this late in the evening. So what we looked for was something that was going to be available 24/7. So in this, you can be as simple as the parents will get a login, they can go into the program, and the kid can log in, the kid can just get help with their homework as needed, they can request a session and say, I want to go in and get help with math, is it ringing? Sorry, that's okay, I'm trying to pick up on visual cues and monitor a bunch of stuff. Is it still doing it? It's gone. My voice is like a dog whistle, sorry. So what we heard was we need help at different times of day, and it's not always when we have access to it. So this company, what they do is it's all chat-based. It can be translated so that in any language the student's able to get help. If a parent's there and they're in Spanish, they want to see it in Spanish, they're able to get that as well. The tutors are able to speed up, slow down. The first thing we wanted to check was confidentiality. Like we do a lot of background screening on our employees, so we didn't want a situation where there's going to be someone on Zoom with some other person that's live. This is all chat-based, so they don't see the student doesn't see the tutor. The student is able to talk, so like if they're a third grade student and maybe they're not as comfortable with typing, they're able to talk to the tutors, but the tutors will always come back in a chat type format for them. So we wanted to make sure, first of all, privacy and data security went along with it, and that they were able to get help. So this is 3rd through 12th grade, all of the core subject areas. Sorry, I can hear it doing it again. So all of the subject areas are able to get tutored in. So this can be just as open as families say, hey, I need to get on. They log the student in, and the student gets the help. At the same time, they're synced with our data system, so they're able to get our Star Renaissance data, so they can look at reading scores, and they can say, hey, Mr. Jones, your class, when I looked at it, you've got 7 students who could really use reading intervention in this. Would you like to schedule a session for them? Yes, I would. So he could schedule that. On days right now when we're short-staffed and you might have a paraeducator or something that's covering or subbing a class that may not have the same level of expertise, the students can go on and be able to get lessons or support in English during the class periods. So what we're buying here is essentially a rolling bank of hours. So the purchase with the ESSER funds, as the plan will come up tonight, is actually more hours than we believe we'll need for the year, but those hours continue to roll. So let's say when we get into our summer school program that we have funded through our ELO program from last year, we get to summer school, students are able to continue to get support through the summer. If we haven't burned through all of the hours and it's still available, then that just continues on until the next year to be available to families as they need it. What we looked for in a product right now was something that could be like we've talked about with teachers, administrators, something that could be as low demand on them as possible, but at the same time, for those spots that are ready to innovate, those spots that are able to say, hey, I want to get help or assistance looking at the STAR data or going in and doing interventions in math, that the teacher could start to use it as a tool as well. So this is something that can sit standalone to assist families and students at home, but at the same time, it can assist teachers as it comes to intervention in the classroom. And so with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop whistling in the mic, and we're going to bring on the live demo for you.
Right now,
perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us today. Just to introduce myself, my name is Janine Mason, and I'm our Manager of Customer Success here at FEV Tutor. And so I'm here to give you a brief demo of what our live platform looks like. And then I can talk a little bit about progress monitoring a bit and how we use data and assessments to really drive the instruction that we're providing for students. So what you're looking at right now is our two-way whiteboard. That means that our tutors can interact directly on this whiteboard and give students feedback. It also means that students can interact directly on this whiteboard and draw, type, produce math problems and equations right here through the virtual classroom. Over here on the side here, we are looking at our chat box. That's where we do most forms of communication. So you can see this is Paul right here, my tutor for today. And then this is me here today in red, acting as the student. Hold on one moment. I think my audio is off.
Your audio is good on this.
Okay, you can hear me? Perfect, I apologize. So over here, as I mentioned, is our chat box. Most students tend to prefer this form of communication, and they are using it almost like an instant messaging tool back and forth between their tutor. We find many students that struggle and need a little bit of extra support really feel empowered and excited to work in this semi-anonymous setting. And I know you were speaking to some of the security and privacy benefits here. So students feel empowered to express themselves and really ask the questions that they might not ask in the classroom. Over here, you see our array of tools. These are all tools that the student has the opportunity to use throughout the lesson. So students can type with a text box, as you just saw me do, can use a pencil to write, and then they can also do things like create shapes and coordinate grids if they're working on a math problem. We also have a set of tools that allow students to share their work with a tutor in real time. So imagine a student that needs some homework help. It's 11 o'clock at night and they don't want to ask their parents or call their tutor. And so they're actually, call their teacher. And so they're actually working with an FEV tutor during that time and sharing their work. Besides the chat box, we know that many students might prefer a different form of communication and just learning. And so we do have many other ways that students can communicate with their tutors. Right over here, you see an icon that looks like a headset. That allows a student to use a microphone to speak directly to their tutor. So the benefit here might be for students who prefer to speak out loud or more verbal learners and don't want to type back and forth in the chat box as well. And so that is an option that's available here. As you're noticing, all of our lessons follow a evidence-based gradual release responsibility model that I do, we do, you do structure that many educators are familiar with. And then all of our lessons end with a 3 to 5 question exit ticket that's backwards planned from the learning objective. This is how we make our instruction data-driven. So our instructional team is putting together learning plans for students that are aligned to their real gaps as demonstrated by their academic data. In this case, it might be STAR 360 data. And then our tutors are providing lessons that really get those exact gaps. I know you mentioned your English language learners and really thinking about how to best support them in a setting like this. And FEV Tutor has thought about that as well. And we've actually had really strong results with English language learners level 2 and up. Because we are allowing them to benefit from our English language immersion model, which you see here. We've also provided, as mentioned, a language toggle that allows a student to translate notes and questions, as well as the communication in the chat box in real time. And so you can imagine a student toggling back and forth between Spanish, maybe it's their home language, and English throughout the lesson. That allows them to continue to stay on pace with their tutor, but also just communicate effectively. For any of the students who might need text-to-speech or who might benefit from hearing instruction spoken out loud to them, maybe it's a special education learner who might have text-to-speech built into their IEP. We've started to think about those learning accommodations as well. And so we also provide direct text-to-speech here. And so when activated, if you click on this button that looks like a megaphone, that reads everything in the chat box out loud. So these are some of the ways that we have tried to customize our classroom to meet the needs of all learners. I'm actually going to move us past this platform pretty quickly so that we can go back to the dashboard where students are able to monitor their progress and educators are able to see how students are doing as well. As you can see here, I just typed really quickly in the chat box, feedback form, please. Your students never need to do that, but I'm doing it for the purpose of this demo here. But actually at the end of each session, a feedback form is generated that allows your student to share their voice and their feedback on the session. We take student voice very, very seriously. And so we ask our students to rate us out of a maximum of 5 points for the tutor and the session. And then we also allow for open feedback to share anything that they'd like about their experience. We have a quality assurance team that monitors all sessions, reviews sessions that are low rated, and really thinks critically all the time about how we can improve the student experience. So I'm going to take us back to our dashboard here and then finish up this demo and open up the space for questions. So as you can see, this is a student-facing dashboard, and it really is centered so that the student can keep track of their own progress, their schedule, their data. They're able to manage their schedule and sign up for sessions right through the dashboard itself. These sessions are available 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day of the week. And then they also have the ability to request 24/7 on-demand support, that last-minute homework help that I was mentioning earlier. In addition, students are able to manage their progress and see the results of their exit ticket scores, which are the formative assessment data points that get shared back with students, teachers, educators, district leaders that help us understand how students are making progress aligned to their learning plans. They can also keep track of things like attendance and the participation that they're demonstrating during lessons. A really unique feature is that we actually allow sessions to be used as a study tool for students. All of our sessions are automatically recorded for quality assurance. And as mentioned, we have that quality assurance team that's reviewing sessions. But that also benefits students because they can go back to this recording or the chat script at any time to review the lessons that they covered and the notes that they took with their tutor. For educators in the room, the benefit is that you have the ability to go back and review sessions as well, to just review quality, do your own quality checks, to start to understand what standards were covered and how the lesson went for the student. Or maybe even it's a parent that wants to monitor some behavior in the session as well. The final piece of the dashboard shows a student's learning plan. And so a student have a learning plan is designed to meet their own particular gaps. In the instance of your district, we would be creating targeted learning plans for every single student that are aligned to their recent STAR 360 data. And we actually have a formal partnership with Renaissance Learning that allows the really easy sharing of student academic data in service of driving these learning plans. Students are able to keep track of all the standards that they're working on in past and future, as well as their progress towards meeting or exceeding those standards. This information is all visible to your educators and adults in the building as well. And we really encourage teachers and leaders to give feedback on learning plans and make adjustments as needed based on real-time instruction. So I did a lot of talking here and I spoke really quickly because I know we're short on time, but wanted to open up space for any questions about the platform, anything that you've seen thus far, or any other questions about FEV Tutor in general.
Of this program, I guess my one thought is, what is our plan to try to roll it out to the students?
The question I have is the timeframes for this appears to be about 1.5 years. Is that, are we going to evaluate it at the end of that period to see if we wanted to extend it? And the second question is that amount that we're spending on this, is that our best guess as far as what we need? The bottom line there is, if we don't see a lot of our students using this program, would we continue it?
So the answer to that would be no. If what we do, so anything with us is going to look at data desegregation. So let's say I go back to that data desegregation. So like if I go through and we see that there was 100 students in the second grade that were accessing this and 100 students that weren't. Okay? And we look at their level where they were at before this. And we see that the students who were accessing this program didn't make any extra progress compared to the students who weren't. So what we see is there was no growth that came out of it through utilization. Then at that point we would say that we didn't see the data metrics to support continued spending, and we would end the product at that point. Now on the other side, if you have the same group of population and you see students that are accessing it at home, we start to see, hey, you know what, our elementary school students don't seem to be accessing this, but in the high school we're seeing a big gain for students in mathematics. And what we would do is after this contract, then we would go back to FED and we would alter the contract and say, we want to continue this, but we want to use it just in the realm of high school math. So based on what we see from the data that comes out of it, we'll determine how to go forward with the contract beyond this point.
So I don't think the mic is on, because I don't think we're getting it in the recording.
Yeah, they can't hear us, yes. I believe if FEB tutor can confirm, isn't it that you provide school-level data on a monthly basis on usage and student usage and teacher usage so that we can also verify by month the usage that we are having and if that's showing progress? Could you respond to that question, please, Janine?
Janine, did you hear the question? The question was, do we get monthly reports or what? How does the reporting back on usage for school sites go?
That's a great question. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. So in terms of reporting, we use a weekly push report process that makes it very easy for educators and leaders to keep track of usage and participation at each school. So we register any adults in your ecosystem that need access to this information, and then those adults will receive weekly reports that are sent directly to your inbox that share information about student participation, their academic progress, so what do their exit ticket scores look like, their attendance, how many sessions they've attended and how many they've missed, as well as examples of real-time student feedback so that you're getting a sense of the student experience in your reporting as well. In addition to that, we also provide all teachers and leaders with their own FEB Tutor dashboard. And that allows them to go in and pull custom reporting and information on individual students and groups at any time.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
Do we have to jump into this with both feet, or can we do like a 30-day trial thing or something? I mean, $800,000 is a lot of money to spend, and I don't know, you lose a lot in a presentation when it's coming off of these screens. I don't like them at all. But anyways, I have a hard time hearing what she's saying. I have a hard time following what she's doing. But it doesn't sell me on it if I'm looking at it on a screen and a student's supposed to be looking at it on a screen. And I'm not getting much out of it. Is that student going to get much out of it? So anyways, to me, $800,000 is a lot of money just to jump in and throw at something that maybe it'll work out great, maybe it won't. But to me, it would make more sense to do more of a trial basis instead of spending that kind of money. But that's my 2 cents.
They give us a month's trial.
Janine. So the question is there the ability to do like a 1-month trial or a partial contract before going into a full contract?
So I can actually pass that one over to Parisa to speak a little bit more about contracting and just options there. So Parisa, if you can hear us, if you want to go ahead and jump in.
If anybody's curious about the hourly rate, did quick math on it, it's $26 an hour is basically what they're charging for doing it.
Parisa, are you able to hear?
I think the differences here, Mr. Boom, is that the students are getting individualized tutoring at their own time. So it's not like if you stay back after school, parents will have to come pick them up. Family gets impacted with dinner time, children picking each other up. There are some advantages, especially high school students who go to sleep late, wake up late. On a weekend, they suddenly wake up and they're rushed to do an assignment, and they wonder, how can I go through this? I'm prepping for a test. It does put their learning under their control. There is definitely an advantage to children of today who are so tech savvy that they can access this at all times. But your question is something we ask them.
Are you hearing anything from Parisa? If not, I can jump in here. I don't want to leave you guys hanging.
Yeah, we don't want to spend too much time on it, but just a quick question. Can we have partial payment on this? Can we try it for a month and then consider a full contract?
That's a great question. So we don't do a month trial, and that's because our partnerships are driven by data. So we do a lot of planning with you on the front end to identify student cohorts who are of top priority based on their academic data and based on your district goals. And then we actually backwards plan from your budget needs as well as the size of your student cohorts to get an understanding of exactly how many tutoring hours you might need to achieve those goals. So we do a lot of that thinking and planning on the front end, so that way we are jumping in committed to some academic results and also being very strategic about how many students we involve and how many hours we provide on the front end.
Thank you, Janine.
Of course.
The one concern that I have was in looking at how the contract is worded is that unused hours don't get rolled over unless we renew the contract. So that seems a little bit risky to me, and I kind of share the point of view that $800,000 is a lot of money, but the breakdown is, I think it's at $26 a student an hour, and that's actually a pretty good deal. And I know that this is a need. We need to provide these services to our students, whether it's online or through a paraeducator, which I think nothing beats face-to-face contact. All the educators in the room are kind of like, yeah, that's true, face-to-face works. I think we're kind of over a barrel here because there's definite gaps here. There's a definite need here. Something has to be done. Is this the right answer? I'm not sure. There's a lot of bells and whistles to this program. I mean, it's really great, and it would look really good, but it also says it's K through 12. I don't see a kindergartner and or a first grader using this unless mom and dad are sitting right behind them and helping them out. Sorry, I got kids at home too, and I kind of know their skill sets. I know there's a need to it, but I'm not on board with this.
So this is not a public comment time, so we can't recognize you right now. If you would have given a public comment card for this item, then we'd be happy to recognize you.
Dr. Greco, I have a question. So if we hire 8 to 10 teachers specifically targeting tutoring, would it be approximately the same?
So separate from that, timing is one of them, like when our teachers are able to work. Our hourly rate on teachers is somewhere sitting around $60 an hour, 56, I believe. So this is cheaper than that. But that said, right now, I think if you were to put it out, and we talked to Angela ahead of time on this and the union, because we didn't want to take, if we had teachers who were willing to do this right now, then we would have gone that route first. We just are finding our people stretched to capacity. We know something needs to happen. And so that was the solution that brought us to this. Okay. And I do believe with the contract, that was one thing that they may want to address. What we were told, and I can have them verify, was that these hours regardless roll. So if we purchase these hours, we get the hours, whether or not they finish this year or whether they roll into the following years.
So, Dr. Greco, if I understand you correctly, you reached out to MUTA about this? And what was their response again?
Yes. And so Ms. Stiegel's here, but I know they're not allowed to, the public doesn't talk in this, but she was in a demonstration on Friday, 2 Fridays ago, and then we talked before that, seeing the need that we have for tutoring and in the inability to offer it staffing-wise here. Yeah, that's the main thing. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough paraeducators. We're short-handed. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Jones? Do you see your students, and at the Abraham Lincoln and Community Day School also, do you, both of you gentlemen, see your students taking advantage of this opportunity?
If you're asking my honest opinion, is
yes, sir.
Everything for my students, and this is why we did the dual enrollment the way we did, is because originally we had dual enrollment going to the Yuba College campus. We've had to build everything into the school day and on the school campus in order for it to be effective with the clientele that I serve.
So are you saying you don't see them using it after hours?
Well, it's a double-edged sword because I do have kids in distance learning. When we did distance learning last year, that when you go back to look at all the reports, they do work at 9 o'clock at night, at 2 in the morning. And so there's those pieces for my 11th and 12th graders. But again, you're taking a chance one way or the other, right, whether or not it would be effective or not. But I have seen both sides. But the most effective way is when we build it into the school day on campus.
I agree. The ones, the students that would use this are probably in high school, as Mr. Criddle pointed out, the kindergarten, first, third, fourth graders, they're not going to use this. Probably out of the 500 students that we have, I would say we probably have 20, 25 that would actually use this on a consistent basis.
So across the district, have you predicted or have we looked at dollar per child and what we'll gain academically, strategically?
Yes, there's always the risk, especially after distance learning. Kids didn't want to be on the computers learning all the time. Right. But that was because it was being assigned in a certain way. When a student's reaching out for help, like I need help on the homework, I need help getting it done, what we've seen is that there is better experience with that. I do believe, like the Davids are saying, for alternative ed and some of our older alternative ed programs, I don't think you're going to see the usage there that you would see like in Integrated Math 1 at the high school or some of the other programs, or in the junior high and especially the upper elementary schools. I think that's where the program is going to be the most effective at filling in gaps. But there's definitely the possibility that it doesn't get utilized the way that we're thinking it will. Experience from other districts that have worked with it, they've seen the growth and they've seen the students being able to access it. But again, there's no assurances in anything. Yeah.
So the question
real quick, sorry, and that is a big chunk of the ESSER funds. You'll see the ESSER presentation coming up. 20% of our dollars from that have to go towards what they call learning loss remediation and looking at tools or interventions in ways like this. And so if we had not to knock the product or the people online, if we had 100 people who were willing to, had the hours in the day, because I know our teachers, and this is what Angela was going to say, if it's okay for me to say it for you, is that our teachers would be more than willing to do the work if they had the hours in the day. They just physically don't have the hours in the day to be able to do it at this point. And so, yeah, and in the evenings, we all know if we work too much, you start to get kind of bitter about your work. And they're already working in the evenings, living with a teacher. It's busy all the time. So this is an opportunity to be able to get additional support for our families without putting an additional burden on our teachers.
So backing up exactly what Dr. Greco just said, and just to reiterate, I understand that you're looking at a good chunk of change. I do get that. But you're also looking at a teaching staff throughout the district that is exhausted, and I'm giving every hour of every day that I possibly can, and I still have students who are reaching out saying, you know, Ms. Stiegel, can I please get some help? Ms. Stiegel, when can I stop by? Ms. Stiegel, can I email this to you? And I do receive emails at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm responding to those. And sometimes the response I have to give is, you know, it's better if we talk about this tomorrow. It's hard to do via email. And so I think having another resource to give to students would be beneficial. I can understand Mr. Boom's point as far as, you know, maybe something that's not quite $800,000, maybe something that's not quite that chunk of change to start with, or that kind of commitment. But I think part of the issue that you may also have, even with your audience members and even with teachers and other union groups, is just even in the setup of the agenda. I think maybe if you had had the ESSER plan before you're trying to approve funds from said ESSER plan, might have been kind of helpful. But teachers really are, we're maxed out. Our paras are maxed out. The paras that we have are doing amazing work. But there again, we only have them so many hours, and we only have so many of them. And we've only got so many administrators. I mean, we're still at Marysville High School. We run our tutoring. The math department runs their tutoring before school, lunch, and after school. And they've got kids there every day at every possible time. But we also have students that are having transportation issues. And so if I can't have a student stay after school past 3:05 because they have no way to get home, then this is another possibility. And it's not something I necessarily see being long-term. You know, it's not something that I see we may need 3, 4, 5 years out. But we do need something right now. And within your ESSER plan, there is a requirement that there's a certain percentage of the funds that go for something like this.
Thank you.
So the question I have is, if we pared this back to, say, fifths and above, how would that change his cost?
So the cost is based on hours. So if we wanted to say, you know what, we don't want to start with this many hours. We want to cut the hours in half, and instead of going with 30,000, go with 15,000 or go with 10,000. The contract would go based on the hourly rate down to a certain point. So we could certainly start with a smaller contract if that's what the board wanted us to do, and then go up from there.
Does the hourly rate, I mean, if we get the bigger number of hours, does the hourly rate go down, or is it that many dollars per hour per?
Let me find out. Janine or Carissa, the question was, if we were to go with a smaller contract to start, say half the hours, does the hourly rate for tutors stay the same?
Yes, the hourly rate would be the same regardless of the contract size.
Thank you. Thank you.
So then can you turn around and up that contract, like after, let's say you use those 10,000 hours in 30 days, can you do it again?
Yes. And it would be the same dollar amount for hours of tutors. So yes, you could start smaller, and then if we run out of hours, re-up it again from there. That's certainly a way you could go.
So I would like to just make a proposal, maybe that would be a good idea to table this item until we do our next presentation on the ESSER III funds. And then maybe we could come back and take a look at this item after we do the public hearing. What's the board's?
There.
Honestly, I say taught together years ago, but I never had to teach like this, so I'm really happy that the teachers are really going to buy into it. I was really, the kids, I know my grandkids every day, until they went back on campus. This was just great. One of them was non-discriminatory, so we're getting a man for a buck. I don't know. And I'm not getting it from the presentation, that's for sure. For what I see on the screen, I'm being honest with you, I'm not impressed.
So do I think students would use it? I think it depends on the student for motivation level. So.
I realize it's not the word for a second.
Well, and it depends too. You're going to see different utilization levels, I think, probably based on the student. And if you're intrinsically motivated to learn and you're wanting to, there's going to be more utilization. If the barrier's been the family's not available during regular hours to help, but they can sit to make sure that the kid is getting additional help and they're scheduling sessions after dinner or in the evening, I think that's a shift that we can work with parents on, and there'd be utilization there. Do I think that eventually teachers would be able to use it as a tool as well? Yes, I do. Can I guarantee you that that's going to happen? No, I can't guarantee that. I would be lying if I said I could.
All I did is know that motion tentatively to approve.
We can bring it back on the 9th.
Well, I have
Mr.
another
Rasmussen-
question.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Mr. Rasmussen made a comment about bringing it back on the 9th. I think that's a great idea. Let's take it back to the table. Let's bring a reduced contract back to the 9th, and at that point we can answer. Between now and then, I can provide you more information, because today's presentation came in a little choppy and it is a little heavy. So let me break it down, get something for you to look at between now and the 9th. Is that good?
Well, I have another question.
Go ahead, Ms. Mjosd.
For our AP students are really highly focused, goal-oriented students, would this be helpful for them?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and just real quick too, if we choose to table this to the 9th, because again, I don't know, I'm also have like double, this is all delayed in my head, that FEV has said they'll come do an in-person so that they can do the presentation in person, be able to demonstrate it maybe a little bit better than you were able to get tonight. So if you guys want to table it to the 9th, we can have the team from FEV come out on the 9th and do the presentation then. You asked impact-wise on is this needed? Everything's needed always right away right now. It's a big chunk of money, so waiting a couple of weeks, the only thing that would do is it might miss parent conferences and we would just have to roll out differently. But we've been creative for the last year and a half. We can roll out differently. That's not a problem. So if we would rather have an in-person conversation on the 9th and have them come out, then we can certainly do that. Yep. And your question about AP students, I can tell you that my AP student at home uses online tutoring all the time. It's not through this, it's through something that we pay for, but yes.
Mr. Rasmussen, I'm going to make a motion to table this agenda item.
I have a motion to table the agenda item till November 9?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Davis. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposition from Trustee Crawford. Motion carries 5 yes. Item number 2. We have a public hearing for ESSER III plan. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the board hold a public hearing to approve the district's ESSER III plan. The public hearing is now open. Dr. Greco.
Did I get that one?
No.
Okay.
You want me to share it again to you?
Yeah. Did you email it to me?
share this from you from right here.
Are you emailing it to me? I apologize. Is that appropriate?
So, ESSER III funding plan. Last time at the board meeting, I had heard from parents as well that we kept talking about the money in all of these different overlapping plans. So as I laid out the ESSER plan, I did put a couple of slides in just so you can kind of see what all these overlapping plans are and the timelines that are associated. So ESSER III is the Return to Safe School Plan, and it stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. This fund was designed to address some specific areas, so learning loss, the support of safe reopening of schools, and basically we're looking at those things that David Jones and David Gray talked about in their presentations: academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs from coming back from everything that students have had to deal with in this last 18 months. So the ESSER III expenditure plan has to be submitted to the board, and then once we've done this by October 29th, if approved, then that will go to the county office and be posted on our website. And then it's already translated as well into Spanish, which is our translation language. So general requirements of this plan. It's supposed to be written in an understandable and uniform format, so hopefully we've done that. Written in a language that parents can understand and that to the extent practical. Translation, which is already completed, made publicly available, so we'll place it on the website as soon as the meeting is concluded tonight. And then we must have to do our ESSER III assurances, which is including updating our return to school plan every 6 months, and so that's currently up to date. That would be coming up, I believe, in another 3 months for the next update of that. So fiscal requirements for ESSER III. So 20% of the money has to go towards the academic side of the house like we're talking about when it comes to the impact of loss of instructional time through evidence-based interventions. So things like FEV tutors, things like we're looking at with Edmentum, the hours that our teachers are setting up that also kind of correlate with what we're doing in our ELO programming and those things outside of schools to be able to fill in the gaps in student learning. The remainder of the 80% of the funds can be expensed in consistency with the section, they give a section, but basically when it comes to district at large needs, a lot of that has to do with physical structure needs. So the ESSER III requires that we have consultation. So we, during this process, sent out surveys. We had stakeholder meetings with Dr. Esrani where we met with students as well to begin to get their input. We talked about this in principal, vice principal meetings, cabinet meetings as well. And then we also used the information because it's very similar in plan to the ELO plan and the LCAP plan from last year. So we used input from those for some of the wants and needs that we weren't able to get with those plans, in addition to that with this. And then we did an update as well through Dlac, which is our district advisory committee, and then our Dlac meetings, as well as discussion with MUTA. So overlapping plans. This is that piece where it seems like all we're doing is talking about plans and dollars that are coming in different ways. So the LCAP is the one that everyone's most familiar with, and that's roughly $22 million. The plan for that is still on the website, and you can see that's what led to the outreach consultants, EL facilitators, having counselors at each school this year. Those are the pieces that kind of the LCAP was spent on. Those dollars are targeted for those 3 unduplicated groups that we talk about, so foster, EL, or low socioeconomic. There's an LCAP addendum that's coming up. So this is roughly $2.9 million, and this will be coming into plan to you guys in February. So these are dollars that have not yet been allocated, but this will be another plan that will be coming to you just after the new year. LCP was what replaced LCAP last year at the very beginning of the year before we wrote the 21-24 LCAP. The LCP was for the COVID year, and those funds were fully expensed through the year on all of the things that you would have expected from PPE through hotspots, technology, things of such. The ELO plan was the plan that you guys approved at the end of last year, and this is the one, it's about $7 million. It funded our summer school across the district last year. We set aside equal amount of money for summer school in the upcoming year, so we'll have summer school again in this coming year to be able to continue to fill in gaps. And then those additional dollars were allocated on a per pupil basis out to sites to be able to run after school programs, before school programs, to be able to augment what was going on academically at the school sites as staff became available to do so. And staffing has definitely been shortened our ability to do some of the things that we've wanted to do there. So the ELOP plan is also the Expanded Learning Opportunities Plan, but it's plan instead of grant because they like to make things confusing. This is $3.5 million that's been given to us to expand the after-school program, so like STARS and ACES. So this is to make sure that the goal is 50% of your unduplicated students, so the students we talked about in LCAP, the EL, foster, or low SES, have access to the after-school program district-wide, and that's K-6 that it's shooting for. There's no plan required for that, but since it was at a different chunk of money coming in, I wanted to make sure it was included so people knew what it was in here. The in-person instruction grant, that's $3,343,000. That was used to do the 4% off-schedule payment for staff in the 2021 school year through the bargaining process. That plan did not require board approval. And then we also have an A through G completion improvement grant. So A through G is if you're a college-going student looking to be able to graduate with those criteria. We have $736,000 that's been allocated, and that has to come in a plan of April to you guys. So that one you haven't seen. You'll see the LCAP addendum plan next, and then after that one, you'll see the A through G completion plan. So what that looks like on an implementation timeline is in 2021, the LCP replaced LCAP, and I'm sorry, there's no way to not make this confusing with as many acronyms as they have, so if I apologize for that. LCAP for the 21-24, and that was submitted and board approved, and then the ELO plan, which we started with summer school and rolled into this year. Okay, so as we went into the fall, the plans that were in action were ELO. We saw some of the solutions for our BOGA when they were having pickup drop-off was they were able to start before school programming to be able to have students coming in doing stuff there. So that's still available throughout this year, and then we'll do both summers and flow into the next year as well, timeline-wise. We have our LCAP with the additional services we talked about. The ESSER II funds that came in, so I didn't have those listed there because there was no plan for ESSER II that came to the board, and that was last year, but that is dedicated towards the Covalod reconstruction project. And then ESSER III, that's teacher support of IS, the tutoring contact we were talking about, and the other things that we're going to show you in the plan here tonight is what we're looking at. So for semester 2 of this school year, this is where we're hoping to be able to start using the ELOP funds. So right now, staffing-wise, we haven't been able to add enough staffing to continue to expand the after-school programs. We are trying to get them back up to full capacity. Many of our after-school providers went into day positions as paraeducators or other things for during the regular school day. The A through G achievement grant plan will come to you guys on basically how we're saying we're going to start filling the gaps and making sure there's a higher A through G achievement rate at the high schools. And then the LCAP addendum will be coming forward to you guys in this coming semester. Summer of 22, that'll be where we have the second part of our ELO, our second summer school, that'll be targeted based on the data that we've seen and collect this year on where we're still seeing educational gaps. Hopefully ELOP will continue, so through the summer we'll be able to use those dollars, especially because we're going to be getting a later start due to staffing, so that kids who are going to summer school would be able to have a longer day to be able to get additional services afterwards. The goal would be to be able to make that project-based, to be able to do more robotics, project-based learning type things that are going to be interesting for kids across the summer, and then ongoing PD opportunities for staff and recruitment. So normally we have set PD days, but being able to do additional PD across the summer for teachers heading into what we're seeing for next year based on the data that we collect during this year. And then finally, as we go 22-23, the plans continue to roll until they die out. And so these plans have different ending timelines, that some of them go all the way up to 2026, some 2024. But in 22-23, all of these plans would still be active for what we're doing in the school year at that point. So 3 distinct categories for the ESSER III plan. You have strategies for continuous safe in-person learning, addressing loss of instructional time, and this is where 20% of the dollars have to go. The total amount is $29,887,000. $7 million of that comes in a separate allocation later, but right now $29 million is what the plan is based upon, and then any remaining funds is the third category. So as we go to look, the 20% requirement, the instructional piece that we talked about, the agreement with MUTA to provide the work through the digital platform, Google Classroom, as well as communication with instructors who are doing the after-school hours. So right now we have lots of students who are out on quarantine, lots of students who can't come because of COVID-related reasons. This year, the state allowed us to be able to do independent studies contracts with those students to be able to make sure that they're still being able to get the work. It's very difficult if a student is missing 10, 12 days at a chunk to stay on track with tasks. This is the ability to pay our teachers to be able to offer a service that they're already doing their best to try to provide for students. So this is that piece. The second piece that came out of that is the hourly rate. So AB 130 was passed that said you can't just give the kids work. So if they're absent beyond 15 days on the school site, for COVID-related reasons. After that, you have to begin providing these minutes. So at kindergarten through third grade, there would need to be a teacher available every day for that student to be able to have access to come in and check in with that teacher to be able to get help or assistance on that work while they're at home. So we've set aside $600,000 for that. And then we had roughly allocated $1 million. That will come down because we were just talking about the FEV contract, but that's for that, and it aligns with our STAR literacy programs. So then addressing learning loss continued here, we have provided extra time for regular hours to review, renew, and create grade level subject pacing guides. So this is the project that Amy Stratton is working on with union leadership. The goal here is to take the work that was already done on identifying essential standards and to create an internal system of pacing guides and then assessments that are going to be able to use to be able to see educational gaps. So based on what our teachers are doing, this is time for them to be able to get together, normalize across the district because of the gaps that we're seeing in the educational process as well as in students learning, to be able to create a plan where we set up, these are the standards, this is when it's going to be taught, this is kind of what that looks like. So we set $350,000 aside for training on that. The introduction of the AVID program that you heard mentioned earlier. So AVID is Advancement Via Individual Determination. This is a program that helps students that are maybe not college going to become college going through note-taking skills and different strategies and study skills. This is the work you heard about Alicia, right, starting to work on. Training and materials to begin the implementation of project-based learning in conjunction with the addition of robotics and STEM programming. So you've heard a lot in the last couple of months about making schools have identity. So our BOGA becoming a STEAM school, being able to do more robotics and STEM up in the foothills. So we set aside $250,000 for that. Illuminate, so as we've used Illuminate in the past, expanding it to add NGSS, so there's labs, science materials and science standards, as well as a repository for all of this work that the teachers are going to be doing and creating common assessments. We have many teachers that use a large chunk of Illuminate already and some that don't use it as much. So this would make that, add the EduClimber product and make it more available for NGSS as well as just math and English. For our device ratio, so the idea of moving past 1-to-1 to 2-to-1, what we're seeing with Chromebooks is that if you have to carry it to and from school, they get broken a lot more frequently. They also don't get charged, and so the kid will remember the computer but forget the charging cord. So the goal would be, when possible, to be able to have a device at home and then at school so that you are always able to have access to the classroom. And then you can see in this plan, as I've kind of laid it out, so we talked about technology in a lot of these plans. So out of LCP, we had originally done $3 million. LCAP, we had $500,000, and that went to infrastructure, increasing bandwidth, data points. The ELO added an additional $500,000. So on technology, between all of these plans, we're about $5.5 million into trying to get the technology needed to do what we're talking about. And then we have an increase with the Edmentum software remediation. So we were originally just using it alternative sites, but as we've spread that product to be able to get the diagnostic and tools able to be able to remediate learning loss, we are increasing that contract, $200,000 set aside for that. And then the final money, strategies for continuous safe in-person learning. So there's $23 million that's set aside for facilities upgrades. So some of the ventilation projects already started through the site logic work that we're doing. So all of the ventilation, the ionizers have been put in. We do have some major existing needs, like at Foothill Intermediate School, where major reconstruction really needs to happen. So that money was set aside for facilities projects.
And then the remaining funds, there was $400,000. One of the needs that we heard from parents was the ability for them to be able to access education, not just second language classes, but career technical education, different things through the school sites to be able to support their own students in learning. But you also see that data suggests as parents become more involved in education that the students do better in education as well. And then the final thing was the addition of engaging academic programs that emphasize math and English through 21st century technology classes, and that was $500,000 that we put for that. And that's to be able to increase robotics programming, like AeroSTEM, like we're doing at Lindhurst, money specific to those type of CTE type programs. And that is the ESSER III plan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Greco. Board members, do we have any comments or questions on the ESSER III?
Will this address the needs for MCAA with the MYCC building going away?
So MCAA, because it's a charter, gets its own separate funding. So like they have their own separate LCAP. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Jen answer.
Oh, no, I can answer that.
Oh, cool.
MCAA will get a part of this ESSER II or ESSER III funding, and then how they decide to use it. I know he is looking at facilities.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we do have some public comments that want to speak during this time. Our first is Angela Stiegel. Angela?
I am sincerely hoping this is the last time I'll be up here this evening. I understand the 3 different categories, and I have gone through both the LCAP process ad nauseum, and I've gone through this and the ELO and the ELOP, so I have a firm understanding of things. With the strategies for continuous and safe in-person learning, with almost 24 million out of the almost 30 million coming out of that, I just think it would be helpful if there would be something along the lines of more specifics as to what kind of dollar amounts we're talking about for what. And so, for instance, when we talk about the sites in need of upgrades, various upgrades to ventilation, facilities that support health and wellness by decreasing employee and student risk of illness or injury, what does that cover? What does that entail? The next line of that, many ventilation projects have been conducted under our Site Logic project. So are we talking about additional funds to go towards the Site Logic projects? Because we've already gotten ourselves into another COPS deal for $36 million for Site Logic. And then as far as the major restructuring and development needs that exist at Foothill, well, what kind of money are we talking about? Are we talking about, $2,000 or $2 million or what? I've been up to Foothill. I know there are some significant needs up there. But out of this almost 24 million, I don't know what we're talking about. But then on top of that, in previous board meetings, when we've talked about ESSER funds and a new building over at Covalod, there's been talk of 20 to 23 million for that coming out of ESSER funds. Is that out of these funds, or do we know? And so those are a whole laundry list of questions that if anybody needs repeated, I have them right here that I can do that for you. But I think those questions need to be answered before you vote on this.
So staff, can you address those?
Sorry, they told me I had 3 minutes, so.
Okay. I don't know which one to address first.
Start
the
with,
Covalod project
Covalod is being paid for out of
ESSER II funds, which are not, as Rocco showed earlier, they're not in the ESSER III plan. They did not require a plan, so that's where Covalod is coming from.
And does ESSER II cover all of Covalod?
No, it does not. And so then the remaining will come out of general fund.
Okay.
Unrestricted general
And so
fund.
when we're looking at I'm trying to, if I get it wrong, let me know, Angela. The cost for the remodeling of Foothill, or what needs to happen at Foothill, what is the rough dollar amount that we're thinking of?
We don't have a total dollar amount, but I think Dr. Sarani wants to address that.
Let me respond to that. Anything we do with facilities now has to come to the facilities master planning meeting that we had scheduled. We will now schedule that for the first week of November, because we do have some idea. We've had some reports. We know about, we got the Site Logic update. So that'll be a very public meeting. Angela, it'll be open to the public. It's an open study session. It'll be published on the website. People can come to this very room. You can sit and listen to the projects, what we're talking about. We also have Doug giving us some idea about facilities needs around the district office. All that will be discussed and a plan made for how we'll spend that plan together. We don't have to make a plan in isolation, which is why we didn't want to bring it out right now. There's a lot of shifts that are happening, and we are being able to get some updates from the people who are doing walk around in the school. What's that company that's going around and doing our foothill?
Is it PK Architects? Or,
somebody's doing the facilities
facilities
study.
master plan.
The study, yeah,
Yes.
that's being completed. So
Yes.
that's coming to us, and that will drive the conversation.
Were all those questions answered?
No. So that's where I have a question then. Sorry. And I know I've got a minute 17 left, so just keeping track. I'm just curious, if we've already got 36 million in COPS loans for Site Logic, what could we possibly need more money to go towards Site Logic for? If you're not going to give me a dollar amount, what?
So the Site Logic was mentioned because when they talk about the needs of this is ventilation and safety of students. So ventilation across the whole district was taken care of through Site Logic, which is why it's referenced in the plan. None of this money would go towards any Site Logic projects, but like what was done with Site Logic and ventilation is not going to affect the Foothill project or what needs to happen at Foothill. So they're two separate things, but mentioned in conjunction as I was trying to lay out all of the different plans.
But I do think with that, Dr. Greco, as you mentioned, the ionizers were not a part of the Site Logic plan, is that right? And
They were.
That had to come out.
They were in the board meeting anyway.
They donated 500, I believe it was.
Yes,
And then
that's correct.
we had to come up with the rest of those ionizers.
Yes, that's correct. The ESSER III funds are not for the Site Logic. I think Dr. Greco was just referencing those were upgrades that we've done and for the ventilation, but the Site Logic is coming out of the COPS, not out of ESSER III.
So then this begs a much more general, but I guess somewhat bigger question then. You come up with a very specific number of $23,723,810 for? I mean, I would assume when you're talking almost $24 million, there had to be some kind of rough guesstimate, ballpark figures that were for something. I mean, I've been the treasurer for the union before. I have kept track of academic decathlon funding and ASB funds. And so I know sometimes when you budget things and when you come up with things, you are kind of given it a best guess or a ballpark idea. So I'm assuming, I've never dealt with $24 million in my life, but 2,400 I've budgeted really well for academic decathlon. I'm assuming 24 million, there has to at least be some kind of generalization somewhere?
Well, I can honestly tell you there has not been, because we just completing the study, the facilities, what is it again? Study.
The master facilities plan.
Master plan?
Master plan.
And they're still in progress of putting it together, and we'll be coming back to the board with those assessments in the plan. And we're also putting together a committee, so it's in the beginning stages of the master plan.
Yeah, go ahead. So I just want to make mention, and I see, Angela, what you're saying is that it sounds like a specific dollar amount. Is that the 80% of the total allocation that has a specific dollar amount?
Yeah, I believe it's the remaining from the other items that have been budgeted, and it's just a budget for the plan right now. It's still a work in progress. We'll know as we know what our facility needs are. We also have TK, universal TK coming upon us, and so, it's still up to be, updated, and it's a budget.
Right. So a suggestion, which of course you can take or leave, because, I'm just a lowly professional educator. I would just say that when you're going to put stuff like this forward, and then when this does make it onto the website, which I'm sure it will, because I'm 99% sure the board is just going to go ahead and vote this through here real quick, I would say that you probably want to explain that, because I knew I could do the simple math and figure out that that number was just 80% of the other. But I think that we need to be clear and transparent and upfront with folks in our community, because otherwise you're going to have people who think that there is a very for certain dollar amount set for Foothill, set for a project somewhere. And so I think you just need to make sure you're clear with folks so that they know, especially considering that is a lot of money, especially for the socioeconomics of this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next is Rebecca Carlson. Rebecca?
I would actually encourage you to not pass this because it's not a small thing. Where is this money coming from and who's going to pay for it in the end? Local taxpayers? How's this shaking down to us locally? Also, what does this have to do with curriculum? Also, what are you doing and how effective is it? You put those iodine things in the ceilings, you just talked about how much we got, but yet again, you're telling all the students, oh, it's for the student safety, but yet they still have to wear the masks. Gavin Newsom, they're gonna get jabbed. Anthony Fauci going after the students. So I'm asking, what are you doing? Look at this amount of money. This is astronomical. To redo buildings for safety's sake? Are our buildings really that unsafe? I'm not saying the improvements should not be made, but I'm asking you, does this affect the curriculum that is taught to the students? Any of this money, is it for curriculum? Because I haven't had a chance to look through the massive amount of paper and this is the first I'm hearing about it. And so for something like this to just pass, you need to do a deeper dive. The curriculum, it's about the students and is it really effective? Are these things really effective? Because I don't see things changing for the students as far as wearing masks, social distancing, and the propaganda that's still being put out. How's this money even helping with that?
So do we have staff that can answer some of those questions, where this money comes from? And
so without getting myself in trouble, like, this isn't local money. I mean, it's coming from the state government. She's very correct in that. You heard Ms. Stiegel talk about inflation and all the other things. That's outside of school district revenue. Whether we accept the money or not, that's happening across the state. This money has been offered to us. If we don't approve the plan and take the money in, I don't think that's going to affect our tax rate, because it's a statewide thing and every other district will be passing the plan. Do I think that she's right on with what she's saying about the fact that money coming out of state government has to come from somewhere and it's taxpayer dollars? Yes, but it's not specific to our local. And so we would be doing an injustice to our students to pass up these dollars when they're offered to us.
This dollar is being given to every school district to directly impact instruction and to directly impact schools. This is not the money that we don't approve tonight, because then we give it up and we get nothing. So that's not an option. What the question is, we did explain in the presentation today, I thought pretty clearly, and we can go over that with you, all the money that we're spending directly impacting curriculum. I think we talked in detail about STEM. We talked about supporting students with AVID. We talked about college and career readiness. We talked about teacher training and project-based learning, professional development. So the amount of money that the state has allowed us to use is 20% for direct instruction, 80% for everything else to do with facilities upgrades. That we can't shift. I think the most logical question that I heard this evening was what Ms. Stiegel said to us, which was, we make sure that we develop that plan. And if I heard you correctly from Angela, was when we develop the facilities plan, what I'm taking away from her comment is do it transparently and openly so that we know where the money is going, where it's having the direct impact. And I do want to mention for that, we did schedule the facilities meeting a couple of weeks ago. I think that was too early. I think now the time is actually perfect. We have the facilities, I keep forgetting the name, gosh, master plan suggestion coming to us from the group that's doing the check of the schools. We have the report due to us at the end of this month. We will now have that report. We also have the state that's given us this money. They want us to use this money to upgrade our facilities. We come to an open public meeting, we look at the needs around the district, and we make a decision on how we spend the money. And I think the transparency is what we must do well, so we look forward to scheduling that meeting with you. So thank you. I'll be more than happy to sit with you and go over the plan with you. I know it's such a long, detailed plan, so I hear the frustration, but we are not going to not approve tonight, because then we never get a chance to get the money again. Thank you.
So next public comment is Joanna Lasaga. Joanna?
All right, so I have a list of questions. You want me to take them one at a time and do away with your 3-minute? I think I'm probably your last one. But did I get it right that if you don't approve this tonight, we lose it? So it has to be approved tonight. So can you approve it tonight and then shuffle where that money is spent? Or does that, how you break it down tonight, is that golden? Is that just solid?
Brilliant question. That's why the 80% we didn't go into details with. That really requires a transparent conversation across the community.
Okay. And one thing I found a little bit troubling was that you talk to the students, you talk to the union, you talk to the teachers, you talk to everybody, but you never get the feedback from the parents. And so that part, the surveys are like 5 questions, and they're like beyond basic. I mean, because I do those surveys, and I look through them and think, oh, there's 15 other, but I'm methodical like that. So what happens if you don't spend it on what they say you have to spend it on? So if you don't pass this tonight, they take it away. If you pass it tonight, you get this, what did I calculate, 68 million.
It's not 68 million tonight. We're not approving 68 million tonight.
29 million.
It's 29 million tonight, but in what you've spent, there was 69 or 68. One's 40. Anyway, what happens when you don't spend that, or in the correct way that they want it to? Can you finagle it in a sense?
No, I can answer that. We have to report quarterly to the state on
Or what happens if it's not spent that way?
Well, then we're audited each year by our auditors, then we're fined, and it's a finding, and we're penalized, and we have to return money. So we are, the state, there is an oversight from the state. The auditors come in and do a separate third-party audit.
And so then you're penalized if it's not.
Correct.
You're 20% or you're 80% or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
One thing you said was the buying computers for kids. They have them at home, and then they have them at school. Whatever happened when we grew up, and you got in trouble if you didn't bring it. That made the kid bring it. You know what I mean? If your dog ate your homework, you got in trouble. You didn't get to go, oh, well, they're going to have one there. I don't have to remember that anymore. So let's not make it too easy on these kids, you know, because they need to develop that responsibility. I tell my kids, you forget your computer, don't bother calling me, because I'm not bringing it. You should know to bring it. Guess what? They've never forgotten. I'm just mean like that. We talked about the ventilation. So when does your final breakdown have to be done? Is that tonight or?
Well, we have until 2024 to spend it, so
so you can.
So it's an ongoing
I'm just trying
plan.
to understand this. So you're going to put it in this blanket statement to satisfy the state's requirements, and then you're going to kind of put it where you want it. Like tonight, we said that you're not going to spend the whole $1 million on the.
So it's
Yes,
a budget. It's
on
a
the
budget,
FEV.
and it's similar to the LCAP, where we come back and we do updates. I imagine the ESSER III plan is
So you
very
can
much like
tweak
the
it later.
LCAP.
You can tweak it later as long as it falls within
Yes.
those certain categories.
Yes, and you're asking some good questions, because we have to, in education, adjust to meet the needs of children. So the state wants us to be transparent with the plan, knowing that we might have to adjust as the needs arise, right?
Right, okay.
That's given in there. But that's audited, so every year when we come back, we give an update.
So the group of us sitting over here, we're a little remedial on your LCAP and all your different, the only acronym that we've got down pat over there is the SEL that we're not liking. So the rest of this stuff, just bear with us, because we're sincerely trying to understand where you guys are coming from. So then the ESSER II was a totally different amount. So what's the total amount that you guys got for COVID?
The total amount for all of our COVID relief funds, is that the question? About 58 million.
Okay. And then my last question, does the vaccine have anything to do with this money? Whether you implement it or not, say that every kid has to have it or not, or we're going to accept waivers or whatnot, this is not dependent on this money.
We have not been told that vaccination had anything to do with ESSER III. ESSER III came out well below the vaccination conversation happened. Could it have an impact on schools on other issues? We don't know. So I just want to be honest with you that we are all in the same boat, where we are pushing the state, we're pushing governor, we're pushing CDE. There's a superintendent council that's really getting pretty verbal, and I want the parents to know that. We are doing that. We are trying to have that conversation.
Okay. I appreciate, and what is AB 130?
AB 130 was the bill that was passed. So as we were coming back to school, they knew that some people wouldn't want their kids back. They would say, it's not safe, we don't want to go back yet. But at the same time, they wanted to assure that there was some basic level that happened instruction-wise. So in AB 130, what happened is for kindergarten through third grade, they said that you have to have, so like on independent studies normally, it would have been 1 hour once a week you would see your teacher if you went to Mr. Gray's program. Right. So for AB 130 minutes, kindergarten through third, they had to have synchronous instruction every single day. So 5 days a week, you would get that. So the students over in Mr. Gray's class right now, and I think some of his teachers are stationed out at Cordova, a couple over here at Abraham Lincoln. Those students are getting basically Zoom classes from 8:30 till around 12:30 each day, and then in the afternoon, the teacher's able to pull in small groups to work with them. 4th through 8th had another set of requirements where it was daily live interaction, and then once a week instruction, and then high school once a week instruction. So AB 130 kind of delineated what the minutes had to be by grade level.
Okay, gotcha. And my last one is it FEV? Surely if there's one of those companies, there's going to be 50 million of them, right? So maybe we can see if there's other ones that would benefit that may be, I mean, the $26 an hour is reasonable. It's the 800 that is the problematic, right? And to go on something that we don't necessarily know is going to work or not. And so I would just advise to either look into different things or I liked your suggestion of the 10,000 because that way it would give your, but the thing is they're basing it off, they're looking at the data and then they're basing it off of those students' criteria, but it doesn't mean that those students will actually utilize that program.
Yes,
so,
we can have this conversation later. I'd like
so
to
there's,
turn
but it's late and that was the rest of mine. But anyway, those were just my 2 cents.
Okay. Our last public comment was Dennis Kinney. Doesn't look like Dennis is here. Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Trustee Davis. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Hasty. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5 yes. Now we need a motion regarding the ESSER III plan.
Motion to approve the plan.
Motion to approve by Trustee Davis. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Hasty. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6 yes. How did I come up with 5? Okay, next item, number 4, new board policy 0415, equity first read. The purpose of the agenda item is to provide the board the opportunity to complete the first read of the new board policy 0415, equity. This is an informational item. Do we have staff to address that?
Okay, so as you're seeing in the policies, and you should have, when there's an existing policy, you'll have a strike-through version as well as the new policy. And then if there was an AR associated with it, we provided that as well. This is a first read. This equity policy is one of the ones that would be reviewed in an FPM instrument for this area. This is the boilerplate language, so there was no adoption or change from the CSBA language that's being provided to you right now. So this is the equity policy as it comes from CSBA in the state.
Any comments or questions? It's an informational item. Okay. Number 5, Board Policy 5145.3, Non-Discrimination/Harassment, first read. Purpose of the agenda item is to provide the board the opportunity to complete the first read of the new Board Policy 5145.3. And again, informational item. Dr. Greco.
And so again, with this one as well, I would encourage you to look at the digital copy. I'm colorblind, so I don't see the red, but I know that there's some of this that would be red when it's in copied. You'll see the strike-throughs where there's language that was removed. Again, this is taking our policy that was adopted originally in 2008. It was revised just before the last FPM in 2018. Looking at it again right now, the changes that the state has made are what you see in strike-through in bold. So those are the changes from CSBA language. Again, none of this is individual language that's bitten off or changed. This comes from CSBA.
Any comments, questions? Item number 6, Board Policy 5145.7, Sexual Harassment, first read. The purpose of the agenda item is to provide the board the opportunity to complete the first read of the new Board Policy 5145.7, Sexual Harassment. Informational. Dr. Greco.
And again, on this one, the same thing that you've seen before. On this one, there's a large strike through at the beginning and some additional language on some of the digital platforms and harassment that can occur that didn't exist in the old policy. Again, this policy, again, is from CSBA. This is the recommended adopted policy. No changes were made to the policy, but it'll show you where the policy was in 2008 and then the changes entailing Title IX and some of the other stuff that come into the policy now.
Comments, questions? Item number 7, Board Policy 4010, Non-Discrimination in District Programs and Activities, first read. Purpose of the agenda item is to provide the board the opportunity to complete the first read of the new Board Policy 0410, Non-Discrimination in District Programs and Activities, an informational item.
Okay, and again, same as the other ones, the changes would be in bold. On this one, really, the only changes were fairly minor. It had ADA compliance and different, so this now you're listing your Title IX officer as essentially the main one single contact as opposed to ADA. So it's just a brief change in language that you see in the strike through there at the end of the policy.
Question of clarification on these last four items, 4, 5, 6, 7, the board will be asked November 9th to ratify, approve these items?
Yes, it would come back.
Yes. I'm struggling. Oh, no? Yes, the process is we bring it for first read so the board can look at it. If there's any questions like you might want to ask us, we would answer, clarify, and then we bring it back for the next board meeting for second read and adoption. And that's a CSBA process. First read, second read, and adoption.
Any other? Okay, moving on. Personnel Services. Item number 1, new job description, risk manager. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the board approve the job description for risk manager. Do we have staff to talk to that?
Yes, I can respond to this question. Thank you. We had a meeting with our risk management group, and I'll pass it over to you in a minute, Ms. Basilia. And in that group, certain questions and concerns were raised about our district's ability or our current practices to be monitoring workers' compensation costs. Ms. Basilia, would you please expand on that?
Yes, so we met with our JPA who handles our workers' comp, and one of the suggestions was having a risk analyst or a risk manager to help us mitigate some of the costs of also assisting in getting our employees back to work on a modified work, depending on the issue with their workers' comp, and the overall analysis and savings that it would bring to the district.
One of the goals is to keep the fiscal oversight on the district's financial resources and to minimize loss due to ongoing employee-related absences. It was pointed out to us by our JPA that because we don't have, for a district this size, because we don't have somebody specifically watching this, we have people on leave longer and we're not being able to bring them back in a safe way. We were given to understand, and I believe our financial guidance in this was that it will benefit the district financially, and pretty much it'll offset the cost of this position in a couple of years, because we're leaving so much money on the table because of the liability issues and because of the long-range absences that are not being monitored in a timely manner. We don't have this position in the district at all. There's nobody literally watching this. So this was a big request, and I think Mr. Carrion was concerned that this was continuing because he had no support in the office to monitor this. So that's why we're bringing this position here, Ms. Vasili.
So Dr. Fowl, in layman's terms, we're spending money to save money.
That is correct. Once in every district, employee absences related to illnesses, accidents and such, there's a timeline to it. So they did tell us, we've got people just out on sick leave or on issues where they can be brought back quicker if somebody was monitoring, like what do you need? What adjustments do we need to make? What accommodations do we get you so you can get back to work? That's has not really been happening because we don't have that person watching this in a consistent fashion. Did you want to add something?
No, I agree with that. It also will help mitigate some of the COVID related absences and the mandated testing and assist with the safety with COVID protocols.
What qualifications make this job start out at $130,000? That cost is all inclusive. Yes, I know that, but still,
yes.
It's
So that includes
$130,000.
health and welfare and all our statutory benefits.
Yeah, it's 130 to 161, 129 to 161. I realize it's all inclusive, but what qualifications are needed? I mean, I might sign up.
We did put in the job description. I'm sorry, does somebody have a question? We did have a job description entered, and we did say the person has to be trained in risk management with JPA, have a good understanding of all the processes in workers' comp, COVID-related illnesses, know the guidelines, also would be responsible for the district's wellness program and everything that goes with that. I think it's attached here, isn't it?
Is this typically somebody you'd get from an insurance agency type person, or, I mean, not a lot of people specialize in what you're talking about. I mean, somehow they have to get into it, or from another school district, I would possibly, but somehow you have to get into that line of work to understand that line of work. So, and usually people that are in that line of work are more along the lines of insurance companies.
Yes, that's correct. It would be either coming from another school district or somebody with that level of expertise that has worked in the industry or within another school district or company.
Well, the question I have is, since we've never had this type of position in the district, why aren't we even investigating contracting? That would be a heck of a lot cheaper than a salaried person and benefits. And this job description is soup to nuts. It's been pointed out already. I just don't think the district is ready for this position. There's no organization chart to show us how this would work across all of those departments and how even the process that the person would administer. So I can't even imagine somebody leaving their $200,000 job, doing this at a fairly big insurance company, coming to do this for $125,000. So it's a major question for the organization. If you haven't had this position in the past, you really have to think through what and where this person would work. You have it under the personnel shop, but that's almost like double jeopardy. Because if they find an error in the personnel shop and they report it to the personnel officer, how is that going to be enforced? So to me, you may have the need in the district, but I don't think, given the timeframes, we have all the information we need to establish the position, and it can be contracted. And I think the district really needs to look hard at that type of arrangement, because we may need a lot of it now, but later on you may need not very much of it, and you're still paying out a salaried employee. Just my concerns.
I think actually that's a brilliant idea, Mr. Davis. I would say that we could go back and look if it's a contractual position that could be available to us. We do need to focus in this area of work. And to your point, does it have to be a full-time employee or not? It's a good suggestion. Let us go back and look at the contract possibility and bring it back to you. We know we need this help. We know that. But let's take your consideration into let's consider that and look into that and bring something back. We've done without this all these years. We can wait another board meeting.
I make the motion that we table this
until
they're ready.
Will you be ready by November 9?
Yes, we'll try and bring it back to you in the November board meeting with a contract. If we can't do it, we'll bring it back to the December board meeting.
So we have
but
a
we'll
motion.
do our due diligence to find somebody that can fit within the criteria that you're giving us.
So we have a motion by Mr. Davis to table
it all
it.
by waiting 2 more weeks.
No.
I mean, it is. The only reason I'm supporting it is the initial funding is already there. I mean, it's not coming out of the general fund unless we decide to retain the person, correct?
Yes, part of ESSER.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's coming out of ESSER funds.
Well, that's, it's a no-brainer then. I mean, we're going to lose the money then, right?
No, we won't lose any money. There'll be no impact on the finance. I think the direction I'm getting right now is, instead of looking at it as a full position with benefits, look at it as a contracted position, set the parameters clearly, make sure you know exactly what they're going to do, what the timeline is, and then if we think it's that valuable, then maybe consider a position. I think that's a great suggestion. We'll go back and work on that.
I'll second.
Okay, so tell us your motion again, Mr. Davis.
The motion is to table this item until the district is prepared to present it.
And the district, you'll be ready by November 9?
I don't, probably December, because the board agenda items are due by Friday, so I would ask that we could bring it back in December.
The December board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Table till the December board meeting.
I'll second.
And a second by Trustee Crawford. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries, 6 yes.
Mr. Rasmussen, I have a request, please, sir.
Sure.
Before we go to the next item, we have David Jones and his staff who have sat through the presentation, and I think we wanted to acknowledge their hard work. Is it okay if we let them be acknowledged and let them go home?
Yes, please.
Just like to acknowledge 2 staff members that are still here. And when I gave that presentation, it's because we have a great team. And so they're integral parts of our team. Ms. Smith, our ag science teacher, and Ms. Sullivan, our SPED coordinator and Edmonton Plato coordinator.
Where's Brian?
Thank you.
Thank you for hanging in there. I think we are going for a record here pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh, you're on a roll, buddy.
Okay, so Personnel Services number 2, tentative agreement with MUTA. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the governing board approve the tentative agreement TA between the Marysville Joint Unified School District and the Marysville Unified Teachers Association, MUTA. Jennifer?
Hello, okay. Yes, we're asking that the board approve this 4% agreed upon amount with MUTA. It is for the 2021 school year, and the total compensation shall be distributed evenly amongst all the MUDA unit employees.
Comments or questions? Entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Trustee Criddle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6 yes. Addendum to the tentative agreement with supervisory unit. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the governing board approve the addendum to the tentative agreement, TA, between the Marysville Joint Unified School District and the supervisory unit supervisors.
Yes, so staff recommends that the board approve this. It's we have the Me Too clause in our district, and this brings the supervisory unit up to the 4% agreed upon rate that we did with MUDA.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Trustee Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Criddle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6 yes. Number 4, addendum to the tentative agreement with Operating Engineers Local Number 3. The purpose of the agenda item is to request the governing board approve the addendum to the tentative agreement, TA, between the Marysville Unified School District and the Operating Engineers Local Number 3, OE3.
Again, same thing for our OE3 members. We'd like you to approve the 0.5% that brings them up to the 4% one-time off-schedule payment.
Comments or questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Trustee Davis. Is there a second? Second. Second by Trustee Criddle. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6 yes. Let's take maybe a 4 or 5 minute recess, and the board will go back to closed session. Meeting adjourned.
Run while you can.
We can show you how. Live streaming can be simple and not expensive. You may already have the basic tools right in your hand. But it's more than just pushing live to communicate effectively. That's where Yuba-Sutter.live and Live Streaming YS on Facebook can help you. Make it easy to jump in. Just give us a call at 530-301-2931 or visit our website, www.yuba-sutter.live. Yuba-Sutter's home of live streaming and live streaming tools, live streaming services, technology, and training. Live streaming is Yuba-Sutter.live.